45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Second and 10, Ohio State from the Oregon 45. Howard would toss that one short out to the left side. Jeremiah Smith to the Oregon 35-yard line. To the 30, by defenders to the 20. And he's going to take it to the end zone for a touchdown. Jeremiah Smith, 45 yards to the end zone. Going down the left side of the field. And much like the previous game against Tennessee, a quick start for Ohio State. And the Buckeyes lead Oregon 6-0.
And it would only get worse from there. If you're an Oregon fan, for Ohio State, it was awesome. That was Paul Keels from Learfield. We're back. Maggie and Perloff, so glad to have you, and happy 2025. We're going to kind of work backwards on this from the game we most recently saw, Perloff. That was the Rose Bowl, another Oregon thumping. It was Tennessee in the first round. Now Oregon, they take out the number 1 seed. They look like far and away the best team in this tournament. I know we have not seen Georgia yet for tragic reasons, but Ohio State looks like this is their tournament to lose now.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, but it's obviously week to week, like in game to game. Oregon, is it just the rest? I mean, or the 2 weeks off?
Why they basically no-showed in the first half.
I'm just saying, sorry, New Year, I'll immediately lose my voice. Was up late watching tape. No, I mean, it's just, I feel like it's a week-to-week proposition. Like, that was not the real Oregon team last night. If Ohio State and Oregon line up 10 times, Ohio State's not going to beat them like that. I just think that there's a randomness to this kind of playoff thing. Like, I don't think that score was indicative of where both teams are. It just was, as Oregon said after the game, this was not our game. They clearly came out totally flat. Ohio State was working Jeremiah Smith. Yep. They didn't have an answer. So I do think, like, yes.
Are you really sick the first day of the year? It's funny because I'm like, man, 2025, what's it going to hold? This is going to be even bigger and better than 2024. And all of a sudden, you can't talk.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense that, like, this, just because Ohio State did this to Oregon does not always translate to the next round? This is the first time we've had a 12-team playoff, but we don't know what it's going to look like from week to week. Like, do you really think Ohio State's that much a better team than Oregon?
Yesterday, they definitely were. And I think the fact that Ohio State also destroyed Tennessee in the way that they did, I think now we've got enough of a sample size here. I do. And, you know, I think for Ohio State, we asked this question kind of all year long. Yeah. How aren't they more dominant? Why aren't they more dominant? It was the play calling. How do they lose to Michigan? I know you were all over Chip Kelly. How do you not get the ball to Jeremiah Smith more against that Michigan loss, which was unforgivable? But I saw this a lot yesterday, and I'll echo the sentiment. I do think that Michigan loss was probably, I would say, the best thing for them. But, man, if that wasn't a wake-up call. Because the calls about Ryan Day's future were valid. The frustration from the fan base was valid, and the question marks around why this collection of talent could not put it together against their biggest rival, those were all valid. And it was either going to go one or two ways. Either they're going to whimper out in the playoff, and Ryan Day was maybe going to get fired, maybe leave, who knows, or the opposite was going to happen. And that's what we're looking at now, this sort of like revenge aspect. And I thought you watched last night in the Rose Bowl or yesterday afternoon, you saw a team that lost a close game on the road where their quarterback had a brain fart, the team had a brain fart, and he got a second chance, and they didn't look back. And if you're an Oregon fan, and I know we've got a lot of Oregon fans in our audience, you've got to be sick. First of all, the fact that you were the number 1 seed and you had to play Ohio State in the first round, which I railed against, but you know what? That's all in the past. You no-showed. And you know, Oregon kind of had this reputation, Pearl, I think, before this year of sometimes not being able to rise in the big games, and you thought that was in the past. And Dan Lanning was a big game coach. And then yesterday, just absolutely nothing.
I hear what you're saying. But one thing about, you said he had a brain fart on a second chance. So like last night, I was confused about what Will Howard game they were talking about. So you're talking about the first Oregon game.
Yes.
So he had a second chance. Then he was horrible against Michigan. So it's not like he didn't look back.
Well,
he screwed up again. And that's the other thing. And my point is, if you get any pressure on Will Howard, which could happen in the next round, but you're going against an NFL defensive line, then I don't think it looks like it did yesterday. I don't think Oregon got to Will Howard and made life was easy. When he can step back, the Ohio State quarterback, and has time and has those receivers, yes, he's going to dominate. There's no doubt about it. But if you're Michigan, who, as we know, if you saw the Alabama game, even their backups are ridiculous.
Michigan's defense is so good.
Right. If the defensive line comes up the middle at Will Howard, then it's going to look like Michigan again. Right. So I think last night was a celebration of Ohio State. I don't think it's going to keep looking like that. I don't know why Oregon couldn't get any pressure. They just did not look like the right matchup last night. And it didn't feel, the game was such a blowout. It didn't even feel like a big game letdown by Oregon because they were never even in the game. It was like they barely even showed up to the game.
Which is bananas. And it's funny because we're coming off of the Texas-Arizona State game, which might be one of the great college football games of all time. I don't think that's prisoner of the moment. That was really...
What? One of the great college football games of all time?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
my God. Because...
The stakes... How crazy that
game was. The stakes is a 12-team playoff. Like, this is as little as stakes.
It's win or go home.
Win or go home, yeah. But, I mean, like, it's not like...
It's single elimination.
Yes, I understand the state, but it's not like a national title game. Like, this is the first 12-team playoff. That was an all-time great. Like, because Cam Scatterbo underthrew a running back option by 10 yards, and the guy came back to the ball. Like, that was kind of a great game.
Wait a minute.
That was kind of like a hot garbage game. That was a mess.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Now we just got to tear up the rundown.
You thought that was like an all-time great game?
Wait, you're welcome to call about Oregon, 855-212-4227. And we can postmortem on the Ducks. But hold on one moment. You think Cam Scatterbo, who on fourth down, after puking his brains out and almost having to leave the game, on fourth down, throwing a 42-yard touchdown pass to bring the game to within one score, you thought that was what? Like a handoff?
Well, I mean,
that was one of the most exciting moments of the season.
But it was obviously a very poorly played game. I mean, the dude can't hit a field goal to save his life.
Then that made it even crazier.
The guy, first of all, Texas, I don't even know how. Just start with the missed block punt. Like, how on earth did he miss that block punt in the beginning that gave... Texas should have won that game 49-10.
They had to do a fake punt to get themselves back in the game. That's when you knew this thing was like, all right, this thing's about to go off the rails.
Yes, it was a very close game, but like an all-time great game. Like, it wasn't like Vince Young going against USC. It was more like a Texas team who's about to lose going against an Arizona State team that may or may not have deserved to be there. This was not an all-time great game, especially if Texas loses the next round. You think we're going to look back at this game as like, wow, that was an all-time great college football game?
Wait, Quinn Ewers 4th and 13 will now be shorthand. Like, we'll all know what you're talking about if you just say Quinn Ewers 4th and 13 to keep the season alive in overtime. They're down, and he completes an unreal touchdown pass on 4th and 13 after they just got called for a false start. That was crazy.
You don't think do you think people are walking away saying that was a nice performance by Quinn Ewers? Everyone's like, whoa, what happened to Quinn Ewers yesterday?
I said epic game, all time.
But does it have to be like a good game to be epic?
It was a good
game. Let me ask you this. Was it a well-played game?
It had everything. It's college football. Are
you running for office? I asked a yes/no question. You came up with, was it a well-played game?
It had its moments. Yes, Cam Scatterbo, if they had a most
is that what 2025 is going to be? Like, we'll ask each other yes/no questions and you'll completely go on the third answer?
No, because it's unfair because sometimes in football and sports, the imperfections make it the most fun. Like if Bird Auburn just hits the 48-yarder or whatever it was and they end up winning, it's not as epic. The fact that he did miss it, then he doinked another 34-yarder, then they go to overtime, then you're backed up. Like, it's overcoming the mistakes that in some ways make a game even more epic.
Let me ask you this. If Texas gets blown out by Ohio State, it's a 6-point spread now. Say they lose. Don't you think people are going to look back at that game differently? Like, oh man, I don't even know if either team really deserved to be in a college football playoff. So that's sort of what my take on it. I was like, this is like, first of all, the game was hideous.
That's not the point to me. And actually, I don't think it was hideous because I don't think you would call Cam Scatterbo. His performance wasn't hideous.
He was great. He was great. But like Texas, would you stop running the ball and just start throwing it again? Like, because you're just blowing the game.
Well, I actually thought the opposite. I think they started throwing when they should have been running. They got the ball back with about 5 minutes left to go, and they still had the lead, and for some reason decided to just keep throwing, and Quinn Ewers threw a terrible interception, which set Arizona State up to tie the game.
Well,
if they just bled more clock, they maybe could have, they wouldn't have given Arizona State this gift wrap, this opportunity for them to tie.
Well, they were up 14-3 or 17-3, and then Sark started in the second quarter. He's like, well, I'm going to try and run this one out. Like it was insane that Texas scored so easily on the first drive. I'm like, okay, they should win this game 49-7. And then Sark had, I don't know what kind of game plan. Like, and why can't Texas Longhorns?
Yeah,
you have pros all over your offense. Like, why can't you run the ball against Arizona State, who's way smaller than you?
I don't know. It was a weird performance from the Texas offensive line because we're only going to hear about all these guys when it comes to March and April for the draft. And meanwhile, you have their left tackle who may go top 5, top 10 easily in the draft, got called for a terrible false start that ended up, again, backing them up the 4th and 13, the Quinn Ewers heroics, and Texas wins.
Tons and tons of false starts and illegal procedures.
So many.
So that obviously
and a targeting call that never got called that should have gotten called against Arizona State.
That is what I'm saying. The mistakes define this game.
But that's a referee mistake. I don't know. So the targeting call was a defenseless receiver. Arizona State's the receiver, defenseless receiver. It was on a third down, and the Texas, safety, I guess, comes over, defenseless receiver, obvious helmet to helmet. I mean, I know this is inconsistent in how we call targeting, and it can be infuriating, but I mean, I don't know what else. Like, you have that little screen, the referee's looking at it with the headphones on. Are you just making a decision at that moment by the referee that I don't want to decide the game like this? Because if you just were calling it by the letter of the rule and the letter of the law, it was targeting.
Yeah, I have no idea why everyone knew it. It was targeting. Arizona State probably should have won that game in regulation, assuming that they could have gotten the field goal. I know they have field goal issues.
Major field. They've had 3 kickers this year, and they got one guy for short attempts and one dude for longer attempts. It's a mess.
So you have I'd say 2 or 3 defining great plays of this game, right? The Cam Scatterbo, what he got,
the pass,
slingshot in the end zone, the pass, a couple other, the fake punt maybe, and then the Quinn Ewers on 4th and 13. You mentioned all those, but I think the big mistakes, the missed targeting call, the missed field goals, Sark trying to hype up his kicker, and it falling short.
Don't talk to him.
Yes, there are so many little mistakes that are going to define this game. The fact that I'm telling you, it is such a huge play in the first quarter when Texas has an unblocked rusher on the punter, gets right into the punter, for some reason is afraid of the ball and shies away from it and runs into the punter. And Boise said, like, that was that should have been a blowout. Texas is going to look at that tape and be like, how did this become a game?
Well, now they move on to play Ohio State, so good luck with all that.
Oh, man, a Sark-Ryan Day battle is going to be one for the ages. Oh, my God, who's going to blow this game? I kind of like both coaches, but you have to admit, this is an interesting battle. Offensive geniuses who you have no idea what's going to happen on game day.
Listen, I don't think a game has to be perfectly played for the game to be an all-time great game. I think that's where you and I differ.
How about well played?
Well, but see, here's the thing about a well-played game. There's a place for well-played games. We love a well-played game where, quarterbacks are almost perfect and, big defensive stops, whatever you define a perfect game. This was a fun, epic game because of all the crazy things that happened. Am I crazy here? EJ, back me up.
I don't know what the hell Pearl's talking about this morning. Being completely honest, I don't know what he's talking about with this being, whether it's well played or not. Catholic versus Convicts was not well played. Giants versus Patriots, the first one was not well played. There are a lot of games that weren't well played that we still consider as great games. I think we're kind of being prisoner of the moment to say that it wasn't great because there were mistakes. All the great games we love have mistakes.
Yeah, but what? Okay, so if Texas gets blown out like what is this, quarterfinal?
Yeah.
Like, is it going to go down as a great game? Oh, remember that Texas-Arizona State?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone in Austin, Texas will forever, if they win a national championship, be like, we almost blew it. And our guy came through on 4th and 13, and then we struck again with a touchdown, and then we got to pick to win the game. Everybody will remember this.
I just said if they lose, if they get blown out.
I just said if they won.
No. Of course, if they win, it'll be great. But it'll be like Kentucky, UConn. But they're not going to win. Like, that team ain't winning.
But the NCAA tournament, we have plenty of great games where Cinderellas beat people or teams win in the first round, and we don't say, oh, well, that team didn't win the national championship, so that game was bad. We say, oh, that was a great game. Neither team won a title, but it was still a great game.
Yeah, I just think that generally, too, like, and this is people are going to look back at this 12-team playoff like, wow, that was a mess. Like, I heard people already saying, like, what? Why did we expand for 12 for this garbage? I mean, that's out there. I mean, the favorites just roll.
Okay, Here's the thing. I understood that take a little bit more after the first round, where you just got blowouts all over the place. And it's like, oh, dude, what happened? Clearly, they need to figure out the reseeding and the whole conference champions get an automatic bid and all that stuff. You can't say it after yesterday.
What are you talking about? There's been 3 games and 2 have been non-competitive.
And 1 gave us an all-timer.
Right.
And we still have 1 to play today.
The Texas coaching staff went into a coma in the second quarter and made it a game out of nowhere. And I guess it's an all-time game, but still, like, that is, if the referendum on the 12-team playoffs is what happened in that game, then okay, I guess. But like, both those teams have no prayer. Like, Arizona State would lose in the next round, and Texas, unless something changes drastically, they're out.
855-212-4227. All right, got a couple things for you there. Do you consider yesterday an all-time epic college football game? I don't think we're being prisoner of the moment on that one. Perloff's not as impressed.
Like, I mean, think of Vince Young versus USC.
Okay, right. But if that's the only game that you're ever going to play.
No, or think of, like, and you mentioned Catholics versus convicts. Like, that was like, think of all the great players in that game, though. Like, you're going to look back at this and be like, yeah, Cam Scattaboo.
That performance was great.
He was unreal.
Yeah, he was better than anybody that played in Catholics versus convicts.
Do you think this is as good as Boise State, Oklahoma?
I mean, I think Boise State, Oklahoma is an all-time great game. I think we're not asking for the greatest.
To me, that was an epic game. This was like, oh God, what a mess. And it was a lot of fun, but this was not Boise State, Oklahoma to me.
But see, in some ways, this is actually bigger because Boise State, Oklahoma, that was the Fiesta Bowl. That was the last game of the season for both of those teams. This one, Texas does have to march on. I think it adds a little bit more to it because there's still unfinished business here.
All right, we'll see. Unfinished business, it'll finish in a week.
I mean, listen, the way Ohio State's playing, I get that. But we still got a lot to do. 855-212-4227. All right. Also, a question for you. Have you been super disappointed by the college football playoffs so far? I think that's also something we have to get into. Because, yes, we got a great double overtime, in my opinion, epic game yesterday. But to be fair to Perloff, a lot of these games have been pretty non-competitive. 855-212-4227. We'll also get into the Sugar Bowl, which will be happening later today in the shadow of tragedy. Maggie and Perloff, let's go.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
If this world were mine.
Maggie, welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. You know, one of my huge pet peeves is television refereeing analysts. Former officials who get on there.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Get on there and agree with everything that happened on the field. A couple of reasons. One, I think there's a brotherhood there amongst officials. And also because ESPN is not really, they're not journalists, they're a hype machine for college football, which they own.
Right.
The fact that ESPN was so forceful all night long on the missed targeting call in Arizona State, Texas, like everybody, even the corrupt officiating analysts were like, that was targeting. So 100% of everybody thought it was targeting. I have a question about that game. We're debating whether this was a great game, Arizona State, Texas. If they call targeting and Arizona keeps the ball, do they hit a field goal and win the game? Like, was that the game right there?
It might have been. And it would have made it, I think, like a 4th and 5. At that point, Arizona State, wouldn't have made it?
No, they get a first down.
Oh, it would have been first down. Of course, it's targeting. What am I talking about?
Yeah, right around midfield. We could get the yard line, but they were pretty close to field goal range already after that call.
No, but I think that they're probably running a few more plays plays.
Yeah, no, they got to get down a little further. No, there was time. They had plenty of time.
Yeah.
There would have been targeting. There was.
I don't think field goal was in the cards yesterday. I think they were. I think they were going for the end zone. And by the way, they had all the momentum in the world at that point.
Right. Well, they just gotten stopped on that drive, though. For Texas woke up on defense a little bit, played really well.
I know, but the targeting call would have breathed life. It's almost like taking a charge or something.
Absolutely. So I actually think if they'd called targeting, then Arizona State probably would have had the game-winning score at the end of the game and not gone to overtime. So it probably did determine the outcome of the game. Again, we're debating today, is that a great game? Like, again, mistakes define this game. And I think we'll have to wait and see how Texas does moving forward.
Man, I can't believe that right now Perloff's winning this poll. This cannot be.
Because you know why?
Of course it was an all-time great game. That's not prisoner of the moment.
EJ, word of the poll was the Texas-Arizona State Peach Bowl matchup, an all-time great college football game. The word great kind of implies well played a little bit. I just think you might read that as well played.
Listen, I think you watched it. If there was such thing as like a MOP, the most like outstanding player of the tournament, so to speak, I think in one game, Cam Scadaboo has to be in the running for that.
He's awesome, but you're also looking back like, wow, Texas is playing the wrong quarterback. How is that scrub out there when you have Arch Manning on the bench? That's going to come up, and his history's going to look back at that and be like, because Ewers did not play well last night.
Okay, but 4th and 13, he won the game for them.
Yeah, I know, but generally, like, were you impressed? And I know he had a big touchdown run. Like, were you impressed by the way he was playing from start to finish?
No. But that 4th and 13 was one of the most unreal plays.
Yeah, it was at all time. You're right.
I mean, I remember back to the Iron Bowl, was it 2 years ago, the Jalen Milroe to Isaiah Bond. Like, I didn't think Milroe had a very up and down season, but that was an all-time play in that moment.
Yeah. So, Isaiah Bond, you might want to play that interception last night, by the way.
I think he's hurt out there.
Yeah. Okay. So the debate, was that an all-time great college football game? I think you'll eventually win this poll because people are stuck in the moment. I just want, in a month, let's talk about this.
Fred is in California. Our first caller of Maggie and Perloff in the new year. Fred, let's make it a great one.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate you guys. Maggie, I think your boy just is drinking too much haterade. The sound in his voice, he just wants a reason to hate this game. I mean, I don't like Arizona State. I wasn't a fan of them, but that was a fantastic game. Super great game. Entertaining. I mean, I've coached football for 25 years, and that's like a very entertaining game. I think the top 8 in the history of this, and definitely one of the best games in this tournament so far. Granted, either one of those teams is going to get mollywopped by the Buckeyes next round, but you know what? You play for the day.
Fred, you start off 2025 on a great note. Thank you, Coach. He's right. And here's the thing about football. I think, oblong ball, weird bounces, like the imperfections and overcoming it is part of it. It's never going to be a perfect game, I
know what you mean, but just some parts of this game just really bother me. I think Texas really has got to look in the mirror about this game because they had an opportunity to come out and take a commanding lead. Like, they really, talent-wise, I think it was a scrappy underdog story. If Arizona State had won and completed the Cinderella story, maybe. But just, I look at that game, I'm like, God, Texas, what are you doing?
Well, we're noticing a pattern here, and we'll see if this pattern continues this afternoon when the Sugar Bowl does get underway in New Orleans. We'll talk about all that awful tragedy in a little bit. But, you have the common theme so far has been the teams who played in the first round come out looking way more ready to go than the teams who had the longer layoff. And so I think it's a credit more to Arizona State that they were able to stop the bleeding. And it took a little bit because maybe it was a little bit of Texas taking their foot off the gas, but it was also Arizona State pulling out the fake punt, Cam Scadaboo overcoming the fact that he's puking his guts out on the sideline, a little boot and rally for the dude. They kept themselves in this game, whereas we saw in the Rose Bowl yesterday, Ohio State comes out hair on fire, and Oregon they couldn't put up any resistance, especially with Jeremiah Smith.
No, I actually do agree with Fred. This has definitely been one of the better games of the tournament. He's like, this is one of the great. Did he say this is one of the great game of the tournament? He said this is one of the great games of this format. I'm like, yeah. I mean, yes, it's been one of the better 12-team playoff games, but that obviously means nothing.
It was, basically the only good one so far. All right, keep it coming. 855-212-4227. We're back up, by the way, as we say good morning to our Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM channel 158. We're back up on YouTube.com/Infinity Sportsnet if you want to come in and watch the show. Twitch.tv/Infinity Sports Network, and on X at Maggie Gray. Andrew Bogusch, and a Happy New Year to you, sir.
Guys, Happy New Year. Your headlines are sponsored by PXG for high-quality, high-performance golf clubs, apparel that delivers style and comfort, premium golf balls, award-winning gloves, and more. Make it a PXG holiday for the golfer in your life. Find the PXG store near you at pxg.com. Maggie, being the journalist that I am, I'm waiting on confirmation from Elias whether or not it's a record that Perloff has been wrong just 6 minutes into the new year.
Wait, what
because
I say?
the game was great. The game was great.
Thank you.
It was a great game. It was ugly. It was annoying at times, but it was a great game.
It was okay. But it was ugly, and it was definitely annoying.
And it was 24-8 for
By the way,
a while.
I would say the first 83% of that game was not great.
So, yes, it was not great from
until
start
the
to
fourth
finish.
quarter. Like, thank God. Actually, I got a text from a friend. I'm like, man, Arizona State could have made this a good game. This is so disappointing. And then, like, with 5 minutes left, it's tied. Or I don't remember exactly how much time was left. But I'm like, oh, it did become a great game. But most of the game was kind of ugh.
Yeah, it was dicey at times, and it was 24-8 in the fourth quarter. We did go to overtime. Arizona State extending the game, then took the lead on Cam Scadaboo's 3-yard TD run, but then that 4th and 13.
Ready to take the snap. Has the snap. 4th and 13. Ewers looking. Fires. He's got Golden open. He caught it. Touchdown, Texas. Matthew Golden strikes again. 28 yards on 4th down and 13. And the Longhorns score a touchdown.
That's Craig away from Learfield. Quinn Ewers then threw a TD to Gunnar Helm to start the second OT. And then Sam Levitt picked off near the goal line to give Texas the 39-31 escape. Here's a relieved Steve Sarkisian.
Not our cleanest game of the year. Then that's okay to say that. But the one thing that I know about our group is when our backs are against the wall and when our best is needed, our best shows up time and time again.
Up next is Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl next week. We'll get to the Buckeyes in just a second, but more on this game first. Scadaboo finishing with 143 yards and 2 scores on the ground, 8 catches for 99 yards, a 42-yard TD pass, and apparently unlimited puking on the sideline during the game as well. Then we got Buckeyes freshman receiver Jeremiah Smith, 7 catches, 187, 2 scores as part of that Buckeye rout, 41-21 over Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State scoring on 6 of its first 7 possessions with 4 touchdowns over 40 yards.
Can I ask a question? Did anybody have the same thought I had? Like, what the heck? Were you watching that game and say, why were they not throwing the ball to this man against Michigan? Like, it's just so glaring to me. Like, that, what was the strategy, Jay? Just throw to Jeremiah Smith every play and you're going to win 38-0 or something.
He was beyond unstoppable. Yeah, it was. But see, here's the thing. I'm like, yeah, what an indictment on the Michigan, that, and why didn't they do this against Michigan? But then here they are. And I feel like they are now, depending on how Georgia plays today and how they look, they're now like, they look like it's their tournament now.
But if you could make that critical,
does it matter?
Because if you can make that critical a mistake against Michigan, then your coaching staff is capable of anything. That's the only reason I would say it matters. Because that was a big
self-scouting? Because that was a close game that they lost in Oregon. It was not close on a neutral field yesterday. And it looks like they've righted the wrong. So don't you have to give the coaching staff credit?
Yeah, but again, right. But self-scouting, did they self-scout earlier in the season when their run game completely disappeared? I just think that they're an odd team. Odd in the sense that they blew the end of the season. Now they're a house on fire. This is all just very weird to me.
There's a part of me that wonders that because they have so many weapons and so many guys that have NFL futures, if some of this was them trying to like help these other guys get looks and get, tape, so to speak. And maybe because Jeremiah Smith's going to be there unless he transfers, which is unlikely, the next 2 years. And I kind of wonder, like, now that the games are they really matter and they're really do or die, they're like, okay, that guy's the best player. He's got the ball every time we got a shot.
Yeah.
And
Dicey strategy, though.
Yeah, I know. But, like, they're so talented. I think they feel like, hey, we could spread the sugar around and beat Nebraska and beat Michigan. But we now know, hey, you throw the ball at Jeremiah Smith, you'll probably win.
I just think the one difference is, and you saw Texas against Arizona State, like that defensive line, I haven't seen a murder scene like that. They destroyed Arizona State's offensive line. Every single play, Leavitt was getting chased throughout. They had no offense, basically. Can that defensive line get through Ohio State's offensive line? You talked about all season offense. Ohio State's offensive line was up and down because of injuries.
Yeah, they had crazy injuries throughout the season. Had to shuffle guys, and it was right before the Indiana game. They lost their center. It was, tough.
So I just think that, yes, they looked great against Oregon last night. Oregon was flat. A lot of football left.
Obviously, the college football focus remains, though, on New Orleans. Notre Dame and Georgia now scheduled for a 4 Eastern kickoff today, but there are some who do think the Sugar Bowl should be pushed until tomorrow still to allow the city to continue dealing with yesterday's terror attack. I was just reading that Notre Dame did let some of its traveling party, band members and whatnot, people wanted to leave. They were allowed to go back home yesterday and not stick around for the game today.
They should extend that to the players, too. If you don't feel comfortable playing in that game, you should not have to. I mean, especially where yesterday the police commissioner came out and said they do not think that this terrorist acted alone, and they're still investigating. So I think everyone should have the option.
Well, I think the players, though, would all say, I want to return because of the brotherhood.
Of course, but you should at least have the option.
Right. I think it'd be an empty promise. I don't think a team member would leave. Like, you would never leave your fellow team, right? That would be a zero acceptance.
I'm actually wondering what the crowd is going to be like, because people you think would have to go home for different reasons, or they wanted to go home for this. I'm wondering what it will be like in the building today.
Yeah, I actually was texting yesterday with a friend of mine, a former colleague of Perloff and I's, who works at Sports Illustrated, who was going to the game as a fan with his girlfriend, who also works in the media, and they were both going as fans. She went to Notre Dame, and he said they're leaving. But that was mostly because of schedule stuff.
Okay.
Also, just a very unsettling feeling. Another crazy part of this, so my best friend lives in New Orleans, and her and her husband moved there about a year ago or so from California, and there was a house fire down the street. They live in the Marinette, and down the street from them was a house fire. It was an Airbnb, and they cleared the entire block because they think that maybe the terrorist was staying at that Airbnb.
No
and then
way.
somehow the house caught on fire.
Oh my gosh.
I know. This is a very unsettling. Bogusch, I'm not sure if they should be playing this game today. And I get it, because on the flip side, you don't want guys to be playing games too close together.
Yeah,
but
the next game is what was this be Thursday or Friday? Their game, either way.
Yeah, the 9th or 10th, right?
It's basically a week. I don't think we're not in the realm of playing like Tuesday to Saturday, where you're really compromising people's physical well-being.
But I wonder if the players just don't want to wait around anymore. They just want to play. Maybe it's just easier to just go out there and play instead of have to sit and think about it.
I know. I guess who is this for? Is it for the players, or is it for the fans and the city? I
think it's for everybody. I think there are a lot of people who I think playing the game will help. Maybe,
I sometimes wonder about that. I don't want to be so tunnel vision that we work in sports, so we think sports has these healing powers, and we think sports has this ultra importance in society. And obviously, we get checked on that quite a bit when real life happens. And so I can't tell.
Well, I think going back to work and going to normal is huge.
But I don't think we're at the stage of normal yet when police are still searching.
Right.
There was that cooler that they detonated that was full of, looked like a IED that the guy had put together. There's still a lot unsettled here.
I think the only way the game helps, in air quotes, is to just get it over with.
Yeah, I think the players
get out of
people's
town.
plate, so they don't have to worry about dealing with this on top of the actual serious stuff. Like the city doesn't need to worry about the game anymore. It's just one less thing off the list.
I think if you're a player and you're sitting in your hotel room, you don't want to wait around anymore. You get all amped up for the game. I think you're just sitting and thinking about, that's when your brain can go to some scary places.
There's a part of me kind of wonders, I know the Sugar Bowl probably wouldn't want to do it, but do you just play it at a different site? You just say,
I thought about that yesterday.
Go down to Jerry World. It's not that far from,
just relocate everybody.
Just relocate everybody, yes. Someplace not that far from Louisiana, so people can travel relatively smoothly. But it doesn't. This thing feels very still up in the air in terms of what exactly happened with the terror attack.
Yeah, moving the game altogether seems too hard.
It's hard. I mean, I'm not. I get
it's
it.
a lot of people.
But do you treat it like
a snowstorm?
Yeah,
or like, you know, like
say, do you treat
really
it like
bad,
weather?
Yeah, and obviously this is way more serious. But like, you know, yeah, like a weather situation or situation where the stadium's not safe.
Right, but usually those changes happen before the teams get, or at least the visiting team leaves.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, you're in Buffalo, it snows, let's pick up and go to Toronto.
Sure.
Like that doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
But again, I mean, unprecedented circumstances. Not unprecedented, obviously. If you go back to 9/11, we've had terrorist attacks that have impacted sports, but this is just so tragic.
Some quick news from the NFL yesterday. The Eagles finally decide that Saquon Barkley will not play Sunday's regular season finale since the game means nothing to the team. Barkley did admit yesterday that breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record does mean something to him, but the team comes first. Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford will sit out for the Chiefs and Rams as well. KC's got nothing to play for Sunday, but LA is trying to get up to the 3 seed in the NFC. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thank you so much. Okay, you can weigh in on our poll question today at Maggie and Pearl on X. Was the Texas-Arizona State game an all-time great college football game? It went to double overtime. Texas escapes, and now they march on to play Ohio State. Meanwhile, Penn State will await the winner of Georgia-Notre Dame, which, as Bogusch said, will be played later today at the Sugar Bowl. Coming up, we have so much to get to from college and the NFL. Man, is this the last game for a couple different people? And how are their legacies going to be treated if this is, and Sunday is indeed it?
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
Not just him. Got a lot to do, M&P.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
What the is Aaron Rodgers up to today?
In a minute. This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com, not available in all states. I felt like I was on a little bit of a Aaron Rodgers detox over the break.
That sounds like an Aaron Rodgers word, detoxing something.
Even though I watched him play against my Buffalo Bills, but I was able to turn that game off before Rodgers took himself out of the game, which I could not believe he did that.
That was the biggest faux outrage. People were mad that Aaron Rodgers took himself out of the game. He should have been out of that game 20 minutes before. Like, what? Who cares? Yes, let Tyrod Taylor play. Taking out of the game.
Dude.
This had Cam Ward taking himself out of the game. Get out of here.
No. Cam Ward's totally different. Aaron Rodgers took himself out of the game in the fourth quarter because they were getting so just mauled by the Buffalo Bills. Dude, you came here. You brought your friends. You have your offensive coordinator. You got the keys to the kingdom. Go down with the ship. Don't pass it off to Tyrod Taylor, who, by the way, scored 2 touchdowns in garbage time.
Let Tyrod Taylor get some action. Like, he's been sitting there all year, and obviously, like, should have probably been starting once the playoffs were out of contention anyway.
I'm sure 35-year-old Tyrod Taylor really wanted to get off that warm bench and have to go play garbage time in Buffalo.
Desperately. The older quarterbacks want to get back on the field so bad to show they can still play.
By the way, Tyrod Taylor, Buffalo legend. Okay.
Anyway.
So, Aaron Rodgers. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. Aaron Rodgers in an all-time just a brutal season. Just embarrassing, even by Jet standards. He has admitted that he's contemplating the fact that Sunday's game against Miami could be his last NFL game.
Have you thought at all, Aaron, about if this is your last game or could be your last game?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And what are your, like, when you reflect on that at all, what goes through your mind?
Just a lot of gratitude for the last 20 years and the many countless lives I've encountered and amazing teammates and coaches I now call friends. Experiences I've had, memories, a lot of great memories, a lot of great people impacted my life.
Okay, more from Rodgers. Manny, let's hear cut 17. He says the Jets run has been some of the best years of his life.
I mean, gratitude, honestly. it's been the best 2 years of my life. And that's a perspective adjustment that happened, I think, at some point during the rehab process last year. But just the excitement, falling back in love with the game, getting to know these guys in here, getting to know the great men and women that work here. Been a lot of fun.
Bums.
I mean, it's just incredible that Rodgers obviously has this perspective, Perloff, where he could be anywhere and he's going to see the silver lining now, right? Like, that's his whole attitude. It's like,
right.
He could be on, well, he is on one of the worst teams in the NFL. He could be on the worst team in the NFL, and he'd go, oh, gratitude for what you have. Meanwhile, everyone else around him is 100% miserable. Coach has gotten fired. GM has gotten fired. Everybody's future is completely up in the air, in part because he failed to play well this year.
But wait, weren't they the same place before he got there? Like, what's the difference between pre-Aaron Rodgers Jets and Aaron Rodgers Jets?
Just a little thing called hope that he sold to Jets fans by saying the Lombardi Trophy was looking lonely and how he was going to, be the guy who knows about winning and he's the guy in the building. So that's what changed.
But anyway, nothing really changed with the Jets, as we probably should have seen. Like, the Jets were going to be the Jets before and after Rodgers. Like, that helmet is too powerful for even the best quarterback of all time to overcome.
To be honest, they're worse off. They're worse this year.
No, they're exactly the same spot.
No, they had a better record with Zach Wilson last year. Their defense is in shambles. They actually had a good defense last year.
They had the number 2 pick when they got Zach Wilson. Like, they were the worst team in the NFL.
They were trying to tank that season.
Yeah, but they've been the worst team since basically the Rex Ryan Sanchez thing ended, and they're still the worst team. Like, nothing has changed. Aaron Rodgers couldn't change. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, I think you're underestimating, though, the fact that you and I both picked them to win the AFC East. Did we not? Okay, so even we were along for the ride here, that we thought this was going to look a lot better. So, yeah, the expectations were just much different with Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson, and they failed to deliver on expectations. And maybe if you're sitting in a therapist couch, they would say, well, that's your fault for having high expectations, but, this is sports. And it's fun to dream when you get Aaron Rodgers, who talked a big game when he walked into the building about how he was going to change things, and they're worse.
Well, the reality is
same.
They're same because it was just a reminder that I think all Jets fans should remember, like, your problem is ownership. Your problem, you had the same problems before Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
You're going to have the same problems. It's an important offseason. You're going to have the same problems. I don't think anything's going to change. It's kind of like Dallas with Jerry Jones. I just think the Johnsons intervene in ways that are not helpful, and I don't think it matters if Aaron Rodgers is there or not. You're going to have the same story with the next quarterback.
Yeah, you're right in some ways, and having the teenage sons maybe being involved in decision-making is not ideal. However, this also is Aaron Rodgers' fault, and here's why.
In what sense?
Because there were plenty of games, believe it or not, in this season where it was a one-score game with Aaron Rodgers with the ball with a chance to go win the game, and he couldn't deliver.
I don't think so.
Well, right, but why?
It's true.
I mean, you say that's his fault, but he just played badly. I mean, like, he wanted to play well.
But he couldn't. He wrote a check that his playing couldn't cash.
He had one leg. I mean, you could see him. How many games, the first half of the season, how many times did he actually limp?
Okay. I also watched Peyton Manning win a Super Bowl with his neck fused into his back.
He had 9 touchdowns and 17 picks that year. He was awful. If that happened in New York, he'd be the worst quarterback of all time. Aaron Rodgers actually put together a pretty good statistical season somehow.
Okay, well, then what is it? Is he actually good statistical season, or can he not play because he's on one leg?
He just can't. He can't move. Like, Aaron Rodgers' game is a little movement dependent, and I think...
Then that's on him to understand his limitations and not be rolling out and not
him. Dude tore his Achilles. Like, he didn't want to tear his Achilles. There's nothing mentally. I think he just physically was not up to the task this year, in my opinion. And you think like he made, like, it was something about effort? I'm not sure where you're getting.
Not effort. I'm just saying that he wasn't as good. So the fact is, he's a professional athlete who gets paid to play well, and he didn't. And if you just want to say it's the Achilles, then fine. But I think it was even more than that.
I think he looks much better next year if he comes back, I mean, especially on another team. I think because you could see as the season got along, like, he just moved differently in the pocket. By the end, he just looked more sturdy to me. I know he didn't play well against the Bills, but generally, like, you look at the second half of the season and you take those stats, I think a lot of teams will be like, wait, you want to come back? He'd be a good bridge quarterback. He just was not... I don't know. The first half of the season, at the end of the game, he looked like he'd been battered and bruised so badly every time. Remember, EJ, you know what I'm talking about. Like, didn't he look like a mess by the fourth quarter of every game early in the year?
I mean, yes, but this is the guy who also thought that he could come back from his Achilles tear last season. So this idea that he somehow should be given a pass because he got broken down. Well, this is someone who thought he could defy science. This is something he said over and over again. So I have very little sympathy for him. I have a lot of sympathy for him tearing his Achilles because I have a serious injury and I understand what that means. But I have very little sympathy in terms of like how he's played this season coming back because he told us that he was going to light the world on fire and put the Jets in Super Bowl contention and it wasn't even close.
Did he say this year? When did he say the Lombardi was lonely?
When he arrived.
Before the Achilles.
Yeah.
He was talking about, he didn't quite say that this year.
No, he was, hey, everybody watch me. Look what I can do.
Watch him next year. I would love for him to go to like Seattle and just tear up the world, Brett Favre style.
855-212-4227. We're back. It's 2025. We're ready to go. Coming up next, our biggest takeaways from the college football playoff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Now Scadaboo shifts to the left side of the quarterback, Sam Levitt, on third down. Play action. Levitt looks, fires for the end zone. It's intercepted! Picked off! Intercepted! Andrew Makuba! This ball game is over! Texas is going to the Final Four!
Longhorns Radio Network capping off what I believe is an all-time great college football game. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, our first show of 2025, and we're so thrilled to be back and to be able to talk about that game from yesterday, which has been, Perloff, the only real exciting game we've had in these college football playoffs. It feels amazing to talk about today because of just how epic it was.
Epic?
Yeah, epic.
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 Okay, let's talk about a couple things. How would you describe Arizona's offense throughout that game? I would say the quarterback gets in shotgun, runs around for his life, and throws it out of bounds for 78% of the game. I would say Cam Scadaboo mostly ran into the line and got tackled immediately. I would say Texas went to sleep and could not run the ball and still kept trying to run the ball, even though because they thought they had the game won. I would say this was a game of mistakes more than an epic game.
Well, how about overcoming mistakes? And Cam Scadaboo, who is the running back but kind of do-it-all for Arizona State on offense, actually had one of the biggest plays of the game, which was coming in to throw a touchdown pass on a fourth down, a 42-yard touchdown, a bomb, really. And
which he underthrew by at least 23 yards.
Well, you know what? It connected, and it was one of the big turning points of the game. And had Arizona State, a game that went to double overtime, I should say, and had Arizona State been able to pull that off, that would have been the defining moment of the game. And the fact that this was a guy who is puking his brains out on the sideline, he's the engine that makes everything go for Arizona State. Everyone knows that. And then he comes in and has the second half he was able to have. Because you're right, he was running into the line, but then started to break tackles and started to, make a difference for Arizona State. And this became a ball game. And I think to have an epic game, it can't just be a straightforward game. We love shootouts where, teams are going score for score, and that's all fun. But to become an epic game, you need some missed field goals. You need a weird, a fake punt. How about a controversial call? And this was a serious one. They should have called targeting on an Arizona State wide receiver who was a defenseless receiver, but they did not call it. So a weird call there that adds to the lore of the game. It had everything.
Well, I don't know if I feel like mistakes define a great game, like a sloppy game, because I think USC Texas. Now, listen, I don't have the box score in front of me. As I recall, both offenses, every time they touched the ball, had brilliant plays scored. Like, it was either Reggie Bush or Vince Young. In my mind, it was the perfectly played game. What actually happened, I don't really remember. It was 20 years ago. But I'm not sure, that game was it was a grind for both offenses in a big way. And also, I thought there were major strategic mistakes by Texas. I thought Arizona State, kind of got a couple lucky plays to get back in there. And then overtime was, again, oh, my God, how do you let the Texas receiver behind you on fourth down? amazing. Like, these mistakes, these mental mistakes were killing me.
And Perloff's talking about the fourth down that Quinn Ewers was able to connect with Matthew Golden, 4th and 13, because they got a false start penalty. Everything was going against Texas at that point. They end up coming up with an all-time great 4th and 13 for the touchdown. And then obviously the way overtime works in college, then Arizona State went first in the first overtime. Texas goes first in the second overtime. They scored first play, right? And then Arizona State throws an interception, and that ended the game. So it was amazing. Can we hear from Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham, who's now becoming, I think, one of the kind of star coaches of the sport, Perloff. He's only 34 years old, took over a team that was picked to finish last in the conference, and here they are going throw for throw, or rush for rush, I guess, with Texas. Talked about Cam Skattebo and how his passion on the sideline, you saw it erupt after the early struggles.
If him being competitive and passionate on the sideline is a negative, then I'm in the wrong sport. The kid's competitive, the kid's passionate, and if that's a negative, then I don't know what a positive is. Because kids that care and kids that have passion and kids that believe is the exact reason why we had a chance to win this football game. So I love Cam, and we're going to have a relationship forever.
Yeah, here is Skattebo explaining that he was sick on the sideline. The sideline report was, I think they said, emptied his stomach, which is a funny way to put it. Here's Cam.
I threw up. I threw up. I drank too much water too fast, and I was kind of feeling sloshy, and then felt better after. So
you can rally.
I was.
Man, been there. Sometimes a well-placed puke can save your day. Night.
Puke and rally, like Kenny Dillingham said.
We called it the boot and rally when I was in college. But sometimes you just got to pull the trigger, do it, and then just get on with your evening.
I threw up.
By the way, that reminded me, anyone who has kids, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen that? My son has done that. Like, all of a sudden, they're out of they come into your bedroom. Like, is everything all right in the middle of the night?
I threw up.
Meanwhile, one of the great boot and rallies of all time, though.
Was it?
Yes,
they lost,
great,
though. Yeah.
He did everything he possibly could. There were times when Cam Skattebo, and I know we're talking about the loser of this game more than the winner, but there were times where Cam Skattebo, Perloff, was taking on like 4 Texas defensive linemen at the goal line and still getting in.
Yeah. Okay. There was some social media activity saying, Cam Skattebo just jumped Ashton Jeanty in the NFL draft. Oh, my God. Get out of here. Get out of here. Ashton Jeanty on one leg is a better NFL prospect than Cam Skattebo. I understand he's the hero of the moment, and he's super, super fun. He's got the best name of any college football player ever. There is no way that player is a better NFL prospect than Ashton Jeanty.
Okay, well, Ashton Jeanty is a little more straightforward, I think, but I'm surprised at you because you love not a gadget guy, but you love Taysom Hill. You love guys who can do a lot of different things.
Taysom Hill runs a 4.3. Cam Skattebo does not run a 4.3.
I'm just saying, you like guys who are weapons and you use them in interesting ways. What do you think Cam Skattebo is going to be in the NFL? A creative head coach is going to have a lot of fun with a guy who's got his kind of skill set.
Right, but that's like a 5th-round pick, like a Darren Sproles. I think Ashton Jeanty is a totally different thing. And a lot of people say, I also heard people say, like, oh, man, he should have been like a Heisman finalist. Like, what? I honestly, I think people are a little prisoner of the moment. He was great last night. He's been great all year, especially after Arizona State lost their only, I guess they have one receiver who can catch a football.
Yeah,
and he was not
playing
there.
Yep.
So he's not been there. It's incredible. It's heroic what he's done. But I did not see like a NFL star right there. He just feels like he's not going to be like, I don't know, like running backs shouldn't go in the first round unless they're incredibly, incredibly special. And I don't think he's that. And maybe I'm missing something. Like maybe he will, but that didn't look like a first round pick to me at all.
Interesting.
You think he's a first round pick and a running back?
I don't know. Because here's the thing. 2 things. One, I think we're going to be looking at running backs a little bit differently this year. Number one, because you saw sort of a shift in the NFL. So many teams playing those, 2 high safeties, basically just leaving the entire middle of the field open. And we saw running backs having a moment this year, including Saquon Barkley, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. almost breaking Eric Dickerson's rushing record. I think the idea of getting your running back in the first round is not going to scare people away like it has in the past, because you do get the 5th-year option. You do get to keep them on reasonable contracts for longer. And then after they're done with their first contract, not to be insensitive about it, then you probably, replace them. I could see Skattebo. I don't know if he's a first-round pick, but I think he's going to be pretty close. Wow. Yeah. I think he's like one of those kind of weapons that with the right coach could be really fun. Now, Genty might be a top 15.
Yeah, I think he will be. I don't know. How old is Cam Skattebo? I feel like he's been playing a long time.
Age doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I do feel like for a running back, like, I think if he 23 already, like, I just don't know. It feels like a college star, not an NFL star necessarily.
Cam Skattebo's 22. He'll be 23 in February.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see how he does in the pre-draft process. Obviously, I think for a running back, a 40 times pretty big. Like, you can't run like a 4.6. We'll see. I think Ashton Genty is way different. I think if you put Ashton Genty in that game last night, Skattebo, by the way, was not super effective for most of the game. I mean, they almost ended the game with 8 points.
I know.
Get the puke and rally, Pearl.
See, that's the whole thing.
I think Texas's defense just got tired in part because their offense did nothing. Like, if their offense could get a first down, then I don't think Arizona State could just keep pounding with the running back and the quarterback running the ball. I think this was like partly Texas made this a game.
Yeah, I think you're not giving enough credit to Arizona State. Had a momentum changer with the fake punt, try to do creative things, and then here's the thing with the Texas defensive line, where all of a sudden Skattebo did start having success.
Right, they were exhausted.
Well, is that not on them?
Well, no, that's on the offense. That's 100% on the offense. Like, where was this? You have Steve Sarkisian, probably the best play caller in the country, and you have Quinn Ewers, should be a first-round pick. You should be able to kill some clock in this game.
Well, then you should put that on Sark, because there were drives in the second half and in the fourth quarter when they could have bled way more clock and decided to keep throwing the ball.
In the first half, I think they ran for about 23 yards. So Weiser had 18 carries for 45 yards, 2.5 yards per carry. In college football, that is a disaster. For a team like Texas and a coach like Sarkisian, if you could run for 2 yards a carry, I mean, picture him at Alabama. Did he ever have 2 yards a carry? This is like Texas physically did not show up in this game. I do not know what happened to their run game. So eventually he gave up on it like he should have. It was terrible.
They had 5 drives in the second half, okay? And one was basically 1 play, 1 yard, like a kneel down. Not a kneel down, but the very end of the game that went into, They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drives, pardon me. And here's the times on these drives. A minute 36, 5 seconds. That was the safety. They went on a 5-minute touchdown drive. Okay, good for them. Then the interception. They had the ball for 54 seconds, 2 plays. The missed field goal was a 3-minute, 21-second drive. And then under a minute with the missed field goal as their, obviously, time's expiring. They killed no clock in the second half.
But they couldn't. I mean, there was no reason to run. They couldn't get more than 2 yards. What was the point?
Isn't that on the offensive coordinator?
I know.
And
I
isn't
don't
that
know.
on the head coach who's an offensive genius to try to scheme up some run plays?
I guess so. I honestly do not know how the run game disappeared on them. But I'll tell you, if in the next round it disappears, they're going to get blown out. So here's the thing with Texas: they have one weapon. It's so obvious that Matthew Golden is it. He's like CeeDee Lamb on the Cowboys. So what's happening in the next round? You're going against Ohio State team with Superman Caleb Downs. Like, there's no way this is going to work for Texas.
855-212-4227. You can go vote on our poll. Was the Texas-Arizona State Peach Bowl matchup an all-time great college football game? I say yes. Perloff says no. No is winning. 52% to 48%. How?
But it's the word great.
Well, I don't know what else you'd use. So,
like, epic might be better. It was definitely epic, but it wasn't great because it was so poorly played.
Mark says if Arizona State had won, yes, it would be. Do you need the upset to be considered an all-time great game?
And what if Texas loses by 30 to Ohio State?
You know, I still think it can be considered an all-time great game.
I think what we're talking about really gets to the core of this 12-team format. Like, I think that are these going to be? Yes, it's a win or go home. It's like an epic game. Like, I think as the playoffs expand, these games are going to feel less and less epic. When there was only like one BCS game, like, yes, that was huge. Like, basically, is a quarterfinal matchup going to go down in history as a big deal as a title game? Of course not.
Well, I remember TCU Michigan. That was a great game. And I know what happened. TCU got smoked by Georgia in the national title game, but it doesn't take away from the fact that TCU Michigan was an all-time great game.
Absolutely takes away from the fact.
855-212-4227. I'm going to give you another one, and I didn't want to bring this up because it's a painful memory for me. But you're saying basically that if it's not the championship game, then it's hard to be an all-time epic game. It's kind of what I'm...
No, in college football.
Okay.
I know where you... NFL's a little different.
I was going to say, nobody here brought up the 13 seconds game.
Yeah, but 13
I appreciate your restraint. It's a painful memory for
But that's not...
Bills
Like, I don't think the 13 seconds game makes top 10 list of all-time games. If it was a Super Bowl, it would be like 1 or 2.
I think it's going to be remembered for a long, long time.
I mean, I think there's a conversation about, there's top 10, then there's top 5. I mean, I don't think you have to be top 5 or top 10 to be all time. It can still be a great game. All-time great game, a classic.
But if 13-second game had happened in the Super Bowl, that would be like 1, 2, or 3.
Sure. I mean, I think the Giants beating the Patriots is elevated purely because it was a Super Bowl. That was
one on most
That was
lists.
a game that was probably well played. It was like, 6-3 for most of the game? I mean, that was not an entertaining game for 3 quarters.
But it was a Super Bowl. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
855-212-4227. You know, I was hoping that our pal Big Easy would call in today. Big Easy, of course, in New Orleans. And Big Easy, our hearts are heavy with you today. After the tragedy yesterday, 15 people have died. Dozens were hurt in the terrorist attack on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve. Big Easy, how are you?
You know, we're doing okay. You know, I mean, Louisiana people, New Orleans people are resilient people. You know, we go through a lot, so you know, we go together. I truly believe that. But you know, it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
You know, I never told y'all what I do for a living. I mean, I've been doing a share ride for 8 years. I was driving that night. You know, and just like everybody else, everybody was somewhere that night, you know, having a good time. This could happen to anyone. But, you know, I feel like New Yorkers can share, the morning because they know you just go through stuff, you know. But I just want to say, you know, Happy New Year to you guys. And, you know, I'm looking forward to tonight's game, you know, but I was driving out of the city when it happened, and with passengers, you know, and the way they designed it, you cannot cross either side of the canal. So, you know, it's you have to come up through one side to come down to the other side, and I don't want to shine the light on this, you know, because we're still dealing with it, but I've never seen security like this in my life. It's just unreal. I mean, it's something I've never seen in my life. It's horrible. You know, I don't know. I can't really put words in it. I just, you know, it's just a horrible thing. And you know, I just want to tell y'all that, you know, Happy New Year. I love the show. I'm listening, and you know, we as a people will get through this, and you know, lots of I know nobody because they're not disclosing all the names right now, but it was described how the way he went through and so forth. I don't want to put words into it. It's just horrible.
No.
And look, you guys.
Big
you know,
Easy, thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys when y'all come down to Radio Row. You know, I hope this, you know, doesn't, you know, undermine what the events that are coming up, and you'll understand that this could happen anywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
No, Big Easy. I mean, and we really are thinking about you, everyone in New Orleans, and if It's just devastating. You're right. There are no words. And, Perloff, I think I can speak for both of us here. And Big Easy, thank you. And Happy New Year to you. And what a horrible way to start the new year. But, we're going to get through it. We love New Orleans. It's one of our absolute favorite places to visit. As I said, my best friend lives there. We've been there for several sporting events throughout our careers. It's one of the best big event towns on earth. And this is not going to change that. We're still excited to come to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And whatever kind of getting back to normal or picking up the pieces and all of that in the aftermath of this horrible tragedy, we'll try to do our small, super small part of that. But right now, this is really unsettling. The fact they're going to play the Sugar Bowl today at 4:00 Eastern time it feels odd to me because this still feels like an open investigation, even though we know who the terrorist is, but they're saying he may not have acted alone.
Yes, I know what you mean, but I am actually I'm glad that they are playing and they didn't move the game out of New Orleans. I'm glad. I think I said this earlier. I'm kind of glad for the players. I'm sure they don't want to be there anymore. Like, I'm sure they want to play. And because right now they're sitting probably in their hotel rooms and nobody wants
terrified.
to. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I think that just sitting and thinking is probably not the most fun thing to do right now. I'm sure they're how you get hyped up for a game and they're hyped. I'm sure they're just itching to get out there. I don't think waiting is going to help them. I think just playing will be better.
I know, and I get it. And for the guys who, probably a lot of mixed emotions. I'm sure some have trepidation about going out there and playing with this still being sort of an active and open investigation in a lot of ways. I'm sure some are just dying to play. I'm sure some are dying to get out of there. It's probably a whole mix of things, but who do you really think about at this point if you're playing this game? Is it about the players or is it about the fans' security and safety? Is it about the city now in mourning? There's no right answer here. Is it appropriate to be playing a football game today? 855-212-4227. Okay, we have a lot to do. Perloff and I are back for the first time in 2025. We're thrilled to be here, and we are in some ways treating this Thursday just a smidge like a Monday, which means the M&P 500 comes your way next. Whose stock is up and whose stock is down after a big week in football?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Happy New Year. Just to revisit a small debate we had on the show, several debates going on about college football playoff. Mel Kiper's big board. Where do you think is Cam Skattebo, Arizona State running back, amongst his running back rankings?
Well, I ask you, are those Mel Kiper standings, are they updated after the game yesterday?
What did Cam Skattebo average per rush yesterday?
It doesn't matter. The dude was the Iron Man. He showed so much yesterday in overcoming whatever to make an impact on that game. He was the whole reason why Arizona State even made this an epic comeback.
The NFL doesn't care about any of that. He's not in his top 10 running backs. And we'll see. He's a bit older. He's a great college player. I like your idea of him as a gadget player, but the gadget player is probably going 4th or 5th round. I would imagine he's a mid-level 3rd, 4th round pick, which is pretty awesome because that's what used to be a first-round running back. Ashton Genty, we'll get into that later in the show. I'm still into that dude. Like, I want him on my team, especially in the year of the running back. I think he's fantastic. But we have still a breakdown yesterday's game, and I still think it was ugly. The more I think about Arizona State and Texas, I'm not impressed. I will not put it on my list of epic games, the Perloff list.
Oh, wow. Cracking the Perloff list is like the 10 Commandments. It's like Moses coming down.
The Perloff list that has, I have USC, Texas, the 0-0 tie in 1951 between Notre Dame and Army. Like, this is not going to get in there.
Let's go to Gary wants to talk about another moment from what I believe was an all-time great college football game between Texas and Arizona State. It was very controversial. It was a play that looked like clear targeting. An Arizona State receiver was defenseless receiver, and a Texas safety kind of comes over and hits him helmet to helmet. They reviewed it. It was ruled not targeting. And it was a massive moment at the end of the game. Gary, what do you have?
Hi, Maggie. Good morning and Happy New Year to you guys.
Same to you.
I'm a 66-year-old guy that I've seen everything. And I mean everything. I also happen to be a Canadian, so I've seen every bad hit in hockey. And I mean bad.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, I'm being the referee. He shouldn't be worrying about the 60 or 70,000 people who are screaming at him. He shouldn't be worrying about the other bench. He shouldn't be worrying about the other players that are on the other side. He's only worried about one thing, what he saw, and is it absolutely targeting?
Yes.
Now, me, I don't have any slow-mo, but he does, and he probably went piece by piece by piece. And yes, the guy hit the helmet, or hit the front part of the helmet.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, just because the guy's lying there on the
Yeah, but
turf,
Gary, Happy New Year, and thanks for calling the show. But yeah, the guy was hurt, so the receiver is definitely hurt. But that's not what I'm talking about. Even if the receiver had popped up and been okay, it was still targeting.
By rule, yeah.
By rule.
Yep.
Like, that's it, period, end of story. And the fact that they actually went to the review, looked at it in fast mo, slow mo, regular mo, all the mo's. It's targeting in every mo. Every angle, all the 3,500 cameras that they have on this game, and every single one of them, it showed targeting. I don't know what that referee was thinking about. I think he was, in his mind, saying, I'm not going to decide the game on this targeting call. And that's the wrong way to officiate. Period.
Well, yeah, but counter argument, I think ESPN certainly wants Texas in there to advance.
Well, then don't even play the game. Because if you're not going to call the game the way that it needs to be called, then don't even listen. It's one thing, a catch, no catch, or whatever. This one, yes. Do we need more consistency in our targeting rules throughout the season? No doubt.
Yeah.
But come on, this one was so obvious.
So you're saying when the officials go on the phone to figure out targeting Jimmy Pitaro, the head of ESPN should not be on that call?
You know, it's funny. I wasn't sure if he was on the call. They go right to his office.
Reese Davis says it was not targeting.
What does Kirk Herbstreit think, though? Andrew Bogusch is here. What does Andrew Bogusch think about this?
It was targeting.
Yeah.
There are no shows, and then there's what Oregon did yesterday in the Rose Bowl.
Will Howard gets the snap on first down. Henderson running right side, hits his own 35, gets to the 40, down the right sideline to the Oregon 40, goes Henderson to the 30 of the Ducks, to the 20, to the 10, to the house. Travion Henderson.
That's Paul Keels from Learfield. Travion Henderson's 66-yard scamper, the last touchdown of Ohio State's 34-0 start to the Rose Bowl. All four of their first half TDs were from 40-plus yards out. Ducks head coach Dan Lanning says the obvious.
We got to be able to adjust a little bit faster, right? There were some things that we were able to get going at points, throughout the game. We didn't adjust fast enough, and it's tough when you play a team that doesn't have a lot of weaknesses.
Oregon did score right before and after halftime to make this a 34-15 game, but the Buckeyes retook control. They won 41-21. Joining Texas in next Friday's semifinal in Dallas. The Longhorns with a boring 39-31 double OT win over Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. Texas blew a 24-8 fourth quarter lead, then had to score on fourth down to force the second OT. A Quinn Ewers touchdown pass, then a pick got them the win. The QB knows they were lucky.
I'm just so proud of the way that the entire team stayed poised and composed through the entire game, especially through overtime. And it definitely feels a lot better to be on this end of the win in overtime.
Cam Scatterbo, 242 scrimmage yards, 2 rushing scores, and a 42-yard passing TD in defeat.
And Perloff's like,
whatever.
It was really the Texas defense that allowed it. This is crazy. He was amazing yesterday.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, again, do you walk away from that game and be like, God, Texas, what are you doing? How did you make that a game? I honestly, and I love Sark, I just can't believe that game was what happened there. If they had lost, that would be like a fireable offense. People would have been so mad because you saw the game. it should have been a Texas blowout, like by all accounts, which I guess is I'm countering my own argument. It was epic that it became a game.
Well, to be fair, though, Arizona State did outgain Texas in the game.
And wasn't time of possession insane,
Time of
too?
possession also was Arizona
Texas
State.
fellas, like, what happened? Where was Texas?
Why is
That's
always
on the
Texas falling?
coaches.
Yeah, why is always Texas falling asleep? Why isn't it Arizona State had a good game plan and they played well? They just couldn't execute in the red zone. Really, that was the thing. They messed up on a bunch of fourth and shorts and they couldn't score close. It was not like Texas was just, their defense was just not letting them move the ball. That wasn't the case at all.
Every single play, the Arizona State quarterback dropped back and was running for his life and just chucking it anywhere. Like the Arizona State offense didn't move at all for most of the game. And Texas is this all-world offense, this all-world team. Like there's no excuse for them not to be able to move the ball against Arizona State. Like they're like a powerhouse. Right, they have Steve Sarkisian. They have Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning at quarterback. Exactly. Like they scored.
I don't think you're making the point you think you're making.
Exactly.
No, my point is like Texas blew it. Like their offense really should not score 14 points in the first 5 minutes, then disappear for 50 minutes. That's totally inexcusable, right? I mean, their offense was a massive letdown yesterday. Well, can we all agree on that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I'm saying. Like Texas blew it. They got really lucky to get out of there with a win. They're going to look back on that and be like, man, that's a game we should have had.
Well, and to
securely.
be honest, the offense, you want to say they got out to this 14, they scored 14 points right away. One was a punt return for a touchdown. It wasn't even
But
offense.
the first drive was like lightning.
You should have a good first drive. You played last week. You have
Steve Sarkisian. You should have a good first drive, second drive, third drive, fourth drive, fifth drive.
Again, I don't think you're making the point you think you're making.
Game.
A lot of people don't think Steve Sarkisian is a great big game coach.
Well, no, my point. That's my point. Is Texas completely blew this game? Like it should have been a handy.
So
win.
you're giving no credit to Arizona State.
I'm not giving no credit to Arizona State, but I think the narrative would have been, wow, the Longhorns blew it. That would have been the headline if they had lost.
I mean, it would have been an upset. But the fact that it should not have looked like the beginning of Ohio State, Oregon.
It just makes it just sound kind of like as if Arizona State was kind of lucky to be in the game. And I feel like
they were.
But I feel like Texas
they had a fake punt and running back pass. That it's not luck, but it was like the better team. Texas was by far the better team.
Okay, but
physically.
how about the fact that they had to do 2 scoring drives, not just touchdowns, but 2-point conversions that they had to convert and came up with a massive interception.
Yeah.
I mean, Quinn Ewers didn't have to throw that ball where he threw it.
Right.
I mean, they should have been bleeding way more.
Texas blew it. They did. And also one of the 2-point conversions, there was a defensive holding that. I just know, to me, like I walked away, I'm like, wow, Texas really stunk up the joint yesterday.
We'll see what happens when they play Ohio State. That's going to be interesting.
That's the thing about Texas, though. Like, you have no idea. They could turn around because they have all this NFL talent. They do have good coaches. Like, they could be great next game. They should be. Don't you think like they should have won? I feel like I'm on an island here, but they should have won that game much more handily. They were up late in a big way.
Yeah. They had a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
But also, I think what EJ's point was, and mine too, is Arizona State should have had more than 8 points as well at that point. Like they left points on the field. Like the game shouldn't have been a 2-score game into the fourth quarter.
I didn't think. See, I totally disagree. Like I thought, like Texas.
I don't think you can disagree on that.
Torturing.
They like actually did leave points on the field. Like they
but
missed
they
a field goal block.
They only were moving by penalty. Like that was their only way of really generating much offense. Like they were not getting a lot of like clean plays.
Okay, but they were in scoring position multiple times and didn't score.
Right, because their offense was totally outmanned by Texas's defense for most of the game. That's why they didn't score.
Inside the 20-yard line. Let's get to the NBA. And your Sixers, who closed 2024 in a 4-game winning streak, but no such luck in the new year.
45 seconds to go. Probe by Maxey. Off balance, force, bounces, no good. Sabonis with a rebound. He gives it up to Malik Monk. No timeout taken. 35 seconds to go. Malik to the rim. Goaltend, I believe. Yes! Count the basket.
That's Gary Gerald on Kings Radio, and that hoop was the go-ahead basket. Sacramento scoring the final 15 points of the game to steal a 113-107 win from Philly. The Nuggets got their third straight victory, 139-120 over the Hawks. Nikola Jokic, 23 points, 17 boards, 15 assists. And finally, Bryce James, LeBron's younger son, committed to Arizona yesterday. He's a 3 or 4-star recruit, depending on where you look. He held offers from Ohio State and Duquesne before picking the Wildcats. Exactly. Guys, back to
Duquesne,
you.
obviously, this is LeBron's buddy who's coaching the Dukes, right? I feel like we don't have the same energy. And by we, I mean LeBron. It's not the same energy to try to get Bryce into the NBA that we were for Bronny.
Although LeBron said the other day he can play for 5 more years, which would put him in Bryce trajectory, which is scary.
See that. Did he say 5 or 5 to 7?
He said 5 to 7. I was rounding down as a favor to him.
LeBron said he's going to play for 5.
No, he said he could play at a high level for 5 to 7 more years.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5.
Oh, man. I never thought that a clip would come back to haunt him again.
Not 6, not 7.
All time. By the way, does anyone know who is the Kings interim head coach right now?
Yeah, Doug Christie.
Doug Christie. Yeah. Love it. Those are some fun Sacramento Kings years that Doug Christie was on.
This, not a fun Sacramento Kings year this year, though.
No. Could be. Maybe Doug really spices it up, though.
Okay. Good luck, Sacramento.
They need a little more De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis spicing it up, but yeah, maybe Doug.
De'Aaron Fox is already looking for real estate in Houston. I've never seen a guy more ready to leave. He blew a defensive assignment during the holiday break, and they asked him, how do you feel about it? He's like, it doesn't really matter.
It's very Aaron Rodgers-esque. I mean, we're all just floating around, EJ. We're just specks of dust on the spinning marble. What do you expect? All right. Bogusch, thank you. 855-212-4227. All right, next we will get to the M&P 500. Whose stock is up and whose stock is down as we flip the calendar to 2025.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining.
Marion High, where Perloff was a nerd. Ernest was a football star, his name was heard. But fast forward now, who's the real champ? Perloff's on the mic while Ernest is just a stamp. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat. It's hard to deny, from missing work like it's pie in the sky. He's the Houdini of the office space, gone without a trace, not a single face. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't keep a seat. It's hard to deny, from missing work like it's pie in the sky. He's the Houdini of the office space, gone without a trace, not a single face. Oh, Ernest Pendleton thought you were the king, but Perloff's the one who's doing his thing. And speaking of kings, let's talk about Pete, who never shows up, can't
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The M&P 500 on the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid that has class-leading advanced safety features like the available blind spot view monitor to make your ride more enjoyable. All right, welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. It is M&P 500 time. We usually do this on Monday, but there's a lot to catch up on. Stock up, stock down. I guess we could go back to... I mean, God, there have been so many football games over the holidays. I don't even remember what day. I was like, what day is it today? I don't know, but there's football on, and I love it.
All right, stock up. My first one is actually going to be a team that's not in the college football playoff, but I got to give stock up to Michigan. How about the Wolverines? So they beat Ohio State in an epic upset. Then they're a 17-point underdog against Alabama. They beat them. They never trailed in that game. Not only that, they have Bryce Underwood, who they flipped from LSU, who's the #1 quarterback in the country, who's from Detroit. So they probably should have had him the whole time. But nonetheless, they've got him. The Michigan Wolverines in the post-Jim Harbaugh era ended the season on a major high note.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bowl game, so it means less than an NFL preseason game at this point. I'm not sure.
Jalen Milroe was out there. I don't think it means nothing to the Alabama
Jalen
fans.
Milroe's body was out there.
Well,
Physically, he was out there. His mind was not there.
He was
did
horrible.
not care. Well, he was horrible, but he did not care about that game. That was
Well, then
evident.
that's even worse than don't be out there if you're
It's
not
an
going to give
exhibition
them
game.
max effort.
I'm not going to kill him for that because it is an exhibition game. Obviously, Alabama was still upset they weren't in the 12-team playoff. Probably shouldn't have been there. I don't like when people say, oh, well, they didn't make the playoff and then they lost their bowl game. Once you don't make the playoff, you stop caring at all.
Well, then why did so many starters play?
The starters might play, but they're not like enthused about it. Like it was pretty obvious Milroe you could tell by his body language he didn't want to be there in the first half, especially because Michigan's backups, because all the pro guys sat out. They are amazing. Like those young defensive players were coming at Jalen Milroe the entire time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
stock up Michigan.
Okay.
Impressive end of the season.
Okay, I'll go stock up NFL. Let's play this. Well, actually, I'll say what it is because I guess the sound doesn't say it. How about Sam Darnold pulling out another win? Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers. Walking in the locker room, this is what it sounded like. More and more. You had to see it. He walks in. He's behind the rest of the team for some reason. They're all waiting for him.
Doing an interview.
Like it's a surprise birthday party. Yeah. And they put him up on his shoulders. He does a little dance. It was awesome. That being said, I'm not totally sure what it means because unlike Minnesota was winning a lot of close games. Like that's their jam. And they seem to, like Sam Darnold make a big mistake and then pull out this amazing pass at the end of the game. It's kind of what happened again. But Love what's happening in Minnesota.
I don't know if the young people are still saying the vibes are immaculate, but whatever the new saying is, if vibes are immaculate is out, is what's going on with Minnesota. Not only the great post-game speeches and the celebrations, but they have the best touchdown celebrations, and I don't even think it's close.
Well, they have Justin Jefferson is the
the
pioneer.
gritty. No, but they're doing like these choreographed stuff from movies from the 90s. I mean,
no, I'm just saying, like, Justin Jefferson obviously has a knack for coming. I'm sure he's leading them, like, in practice, like, practicing these things.
I don't know. I see they put out the rehearsal videos sometimes, and I don't think he's there.
The defensive players are having celebrations. I mean, I don't know if he's doing it with them, but
it's pretty. The white chick celebrations, all that stuff. The
High School Musical.
It's incredible.
We're all in this together. Da, 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 you know?
I would put everyone on the spot. Does Minnesota, do they get to the NFC title game?
Hold on.
It's going to be really,
let's save that one for a second.
I'm just saying, like,
we stock down.
I just think, like, oh, yeah, they beat Green Bay. I'm like, ooh, Green Bay is licking their chops. I think they want to see them again. Like, this is the thing about Minnesota. Like, how'd they win that game? How'd they win that game? How'd they win that game? I don't know. I just don't know. It feels great now. Big game on Sunday night. The only game on Sunday, really, that matters. Okay.
Stock down. It's the MMP 500 if you're just joining us. Welcome. Stock down, rushing records being broken. Ashton Jeanty never topped Barry Sanders. Came up 28. He needed 28 yards to break the record. Didn't get it before they lost to Penn State. Boise State, that is. And Saquon Barkley needs 101 rushing yards to break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. But it turns out he's not going to play this Sunday against the New York Giants. The rushing records will stand in both college and the pro, and we'll talk about Saquon a little bit later.
That's football. Yeah. Oh, also, Dylan Gabriel didn't beat my guy Case Keenum's touchdown record.
Tied it, though.
But I thought he was one off. Did
No,
he tie it?
he tied it.
Oh, he did tie it?
Yep.
Oh, darn it. Also,
all right.
by the way, Cam Ward broke it, but they don't count his Incarnate Word stats.
That's a lame.
Kind of, but I guess you don't know who Incarnate Ward's playing. Cam Ward almost broke it in one game. That guy is insane. Okay, my stock down, back to NFL. If I feel bad if anyone had to watch this. I don't even know what day of the week it was. But the Seattle-Chicago game, Thomas Brown, the Bears interim coach, is going to take the bullet on this one because nobody knows how to call timeouts in the fourth quarter of an NFL game anymore. But he especially screwed that up. Basically, the Bears had a chance. Like, Seahawks kept letting them get back in the game, They had their final drive. They did call a timeout on one key play, and most of the clock went away, and they lost 6-3. It was the ugliest final 3 minutes of a game time management I've ever seen.
You can put Thomas Brown. We can put Raheem Morris in that boat. We can put Zach Taylor in that boat. How do these coaches not have a clue of when to call timeouts? It's baffling. I saw someone else say this. Like, I forgot who it was. I think our friend Shil Kapadia. You're in the office. You're 100 hours a week. The football coaches, they sleep in the office. You know, they eat and breathe and live football 24 hours a day. Nobody's thinking about the strategy of when to call timeouts because it's painful. Painful. He's not the only one.
Yeah, but I mean, but there was Thomas Brown actually would just like let the clock run out, then call the timeout. He was just a total disaster. I feel bad. He's very young. I'm sure he has a good future as a offensive coordinator, but he is not ready to be a head coach. And if you're a Bears fan, I know it doesn't matter. You're out of the playoffs, but it's getting worse and worse.
Can I do one more stock down here?
Sure.
I got a couple more, but stock down New Year's resolutions. Not a big fan. I don't think we need this like random flip of the calendar to all of a sudden try to put all this pressure on ourselves that we have to make these gigantic life changes. I'm always stocked down on New Year's resolutions. I think it's one of the sillier traditions that we have, and most people don't follow through with them, and then that causes people to feel bad because, like, my New Year's resolution, I gave up on it in 2 weeks. Anyone else with me?
I'm actually kind of okay with them. It's a nice aspirational thing.
It's good to have them. I don't think you'll ever do them, but
I think people. I actually read that people do go to the gym more in January.
That does happen.
They do. And anyone who has a gym membership knows if you actually go any other month of the year, it's just insanely packed in the month of January. And then February comes, and by March, it's back to just the people you see all the time. I don't know. I don't like New Year's resolutions. I just think it's like you're setting yourself up here when if you've ever really made a life change in your life, something significant or even something small, it doesn't happen with the snap of a finger. Sometimes you got to work at it.
That's why I think sometimes the best resolutions are either the ones that are super, super, I don't want to say unattainable, but super high end. So like you really gotta, it's gonna take longer than a couple of weeks to get it done. Or there's stuff small, like, hey, I'm gonna take the trash out every couple of days. Like that's something that is attainable. Not I'm gonna go to the gym every day.
I'm gonna lose 50 pounds in the month of January.
I'm going to the gym every week for 54 weeks or whatever. That's a lot harder.
Can I throw in also the Texans offense as a sock guy?
New Year's resolutions and what happened to the Texans offense?
What did happen? I'm dying to know the backstory there.
Man, we've got so much in front of us. Coming up next, the biggest questions heading into the NFL weekend.
You're in a 5-minute break.
All right, I'm not sure what this sponsorship.
Where the nerds stayed low. Perloff was a bookworm, but Ernest ran the show. A football star with muscles and a menacing glare. But little did he know, Perloff didn't care. Oh, Ernest Pendleton, king of the school. The sun's barely up, the crew's on the scene. Construction workers puffing on that green. Hammer in one hand, joint in the other. Safety first, yeah, tell it to their mother. And there's Andrew Perloff sniffing the breeze. Is that cedar or skunk or just some old trees? He's coughing and wheezing, waving his hand. How can I work when the whole site's a weed strand? Oh, smoke on the site, it's a hazy affair. Perloff's in a fog, he's gasping for air. Russian guys puffing cigs by the stack, and the lie's not here, he's never coming back. Out on YouTube, the viewers chime in. We go past laughing, let the chaos begin. Travis says pass it, Daly's got jokes, and Bamati's just here for the second-hand tokes. Meanwhile, Perloff's losing his cool. These YouTube comments, man, they're cruel. Hey Maggie, your crew's got me in a cloud. This construction circus makes me not so proud. Oh, smoke on the site, it's a hazy affair. Perloff's in a fog, he's gasping for air. Russian guys puffing cigs by the stack, and Belotti's not here, he's never coming back. Meanwhile, Fluva smokes up a vibe. The site's a hot box, can't see the sky. Perloff's out of luck, his nostrils are burned. Why do I come here, when will I learn? So here's to the workers, the smog and the haze. The Maggie and Perloff crew, sparking their plays. Andrew Perloff smells it all day. Construction site chaos, the smoky ballet. The viewers chime in. We don't pass laughing, let the chaos begin. Travis says pass it, Daly's got jokes, and Potty's just here for the second-hand tokes. Meanwhile, Perloff's losing his cool. These YouTube comments, man, they're cruel. Hey Maggie, your crew's got me in a cloud. This construction circus makes me not so proud. Smoke on the site, it's a hazy affair. Perloff's in a Maggie woke up, felt a change in the air. Reached for his razor, didn't have never cared. He shaved it off that iconic mustache. Now he's just a face lost in the mask. How many ways did you go without your mustache?
45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
So much incredible college football. Well, one incredible game, really, and some wonky results. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. We've been talking all morning about the barn burner between Arizona State and Texas. Texas moves on in double overtime, but Arizona State gave them all they could handle. It took a miracle, really. 4th and 13 play from Quinn Ewers in overtime to keep the game tied, and then they win it in double OT. And that was really the best in terms of drama, Perloff, game of the college football playoffs so far. The biggest surprise result to me, though, was definitely Oregon getting boat raced by Ohio State.
Yeah.
Credit to Ohio State. They look like the toughest team left in the tournament. I know we have not seen Georgia yet because of the tragic events yesterday or New Year's Eve night, rather, in New Orleans. We'll see them this afternoon in the Sugar Bowl. But this looks like Ohio State's tournament to lose, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Buckeyes. But for Oregon, you've got to be sick.
Yes and no. I mean, it's a tough assignment to beat Ohio State, who's definitely a more talented team. You even saw that in the first game. To beat them twice in the season, that's why it's a surprise how it went down, but it's not a shock that they lost, obviously.
I don't know. I'm going to have to disagree. Well, most talented. Listen, Oregon, maybe if you're on paper, maybe Ohio State had the most talent on the roster of anyone in the country.
Like NFL talent. They have an overwhelming advantage there.
No doubt, but Oregon was the number one team in the country, and Oregon's going to have plenty of pros. And it's not like the quarterback, which is still the most important position. It's not like Will Howard versus Dylan Gabriel is such a tilted, it's not like Will Howard's going number one overall in the draft and Dylan Gabriel is going to be a 5th round pick. Those guys are, they're very comparable in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, but I feel like, if you're just going NFL talent, like this Ohio State team blows everybody out of the water.
But they hadn't been playing up to their potential.
They've just been getting the edges. Obviously, the coaching staff's better at Oregon. So that's the only reason, Oregon beat them the first time, I think. And that game was a coin flip in Eugene. Right. So that's why it's not a shock. I think Ohio State was favored coming into the game, right, by about a field goal. So the win is not shocking. It's really hard to beat Ohio State twice. The fact that Oregon laid down, this is a total excuse, but I'm going to say it's a layoff, Maggie. There's no real reason. They totally came out flat. Then you saw at the end of the first half, they got a little momentum going, beginning of the second half. I just have to say, oh, man, they were flat. There's no other way to describe it. And Ohio State caught them.
Then that's got to be on the coaching staff, right? Don't we generally put that on the coaches when a team comes out? Listen, you got a team that you beat by 1 point at your place. You know this is going to be a massive game. They're going to have revenge on their minds. You're at the Rose Bowl, for goodness sakes. It's not like you're playing in some crappy, dingy venue where you can't get up for it. Everything's on the line. It's single elimination. You had all this rest and time to get ready. Dan Lanning is a dynamo. He's definitely one of the faces of the sport. He's an easy guy to root for, but he's got to wear this without a doubt because this was a scary team all year. They were a resilient team, and you let your opponent get out to a 34-0 lead, and he said we waited too long to make adjustments, again, on the coaching staff, because Jeremiah Smith, who is the freshman receiver for Ohio State, who, if he was eligible to go to the draft this year, would be the number one receiver off the board.
Be the number one pick.
Sure.
Maybe.
It's possible. He's got the talent.
It's like an 18-year-old Julio Jones running around a college stadium. It's bizarre. But
they could not do anything against him.
Yeah, nobody could. But again, I actually, you're right. Of course you're going to call out the coaching staff in a blowout loss like that. But is it more the structure of the college football playoff? Like, are we going to look back? Is the real takeaway is that Dan Lanning came up short? Or, these teams with a bye have way too long a break, and it's problematic.
Well, we'll see because we still have a game to play. But that looks like the theme, right? The teams that played the week before were just raring and ready to go, and the teams that didn't got off to slower starts.
Well, we're all like that. Like, you got to get in a rhythm. You got to practice. Like, I play basketball. If I don't play for 3 weeks, I get back and I stink.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, this is not unique to college football. It's not like for 100 years we've been doing it one way. You always get these long layoffs before bowl games, and so you'd think that the coaches have an idea
but
of how to.
Both teams have the layoffs. That's the difference. When you have a national title game, both teams are sitting there for a month, and they almost always come out and play terribly in the first quarter.
That's true. And usually it's nerves also. Everyone's a little tight.
Very, very much so. But that could have happened last night, too. But I felt like that wasn't there a point in the game where you said, oh, okay, here's Oregon. Like, they came, finally they were back. And even the second half, Ohio State, I thought it was going to get kind of close. We were actually doing our production call at halftime, and I look up and I'm like, oh, it's 34-15, and Oregon's got the ball again. It looked like, okay, but Ohio State had some resilience, too, to not let what happened to Texas happen to them.
Now, I don't want to be this person, but I'm going to tell you the thought crossed my mind as I was watching that game, and I'm curious because we have a big audience in Oregon, a lot of Duck fans listening to us, and at 855-212-4227, you can call. Does it wipe away everything from the season? I hate to be that person. I don't want to be that person because these are athletes. They're young men. They had the number one. They were ranked number one throughout the year. No one questioned it. No one called out the schedule. They did everything they had to do. But the fact that you lose like that in the quarterfinal, does it just mean the whole season just sort of has now this, I don't know, sort of dampness about it? Shadow. Who's going to look back and be like, man, remember 2024? Remember the magic when we beat Ohio State? It's like, yeah, well, then what happened? Well, then they beat our ass in the quarterfinal. You know, again, I hate to do that. It's a whole long season. Games, every game matters. It's fun. But if I'm an Oregon fan, am I like, now I can't even really probably look fondly back on this game and the season, rather, not this game. The season, I think, just takes on a whole other tenure and tinge.
Actually, I don't even think that's where, if I was a fan, I would think this is, okay, it didn't work this year. Like, we have Dan Lanning. We have all the money on earth. Like, how are we going to win this thing? Like, what's next? Well, let's go. Like, they're in a position in the next 5 years, as long as Lanning stays. Maybe they don't get it in the next 2 years, but like, they're thinking like, okay, we lost this game. Like, what's next? I would be
just reload.
Like, of course. Definitely.
They will.
Now there's only one expectation for this program, and it's national title. So, no, there's no looking back fondly to answer your question. It's like, okay, this time it did not happen, but we got into the Big Ten and kicked everyone's butt. We are going to be a national title team, hopefully within 5 years, and like, everything's got to be focused on that.
Yeah, but you know what? Oregon Ducks been to the national title.
Yeah, but this is very different.
I know, but I guess here's the thing.
Yeah.
And maybe I know this because I root for a fan base that also has this type of history, which is, when are we finally going to break through and win this thing? When is it going to happen? If not this year, number one seed. Could have gotten a better draw. I mean, I hated the way it laid out for Oregon. But listen, you're going to have to beat good teams to win the whole thing. At least that's what I was told. Stop complaining that the number one seed had to run into a very good Ohio State team in the first round or second round. But when are you going to win? That's probably closer. And again, as a Bills fan, I get that because my team has the same thing. You feel like the pieces are in place, yet for some reason you come up short.
Yeah, but I mean, Dan Lanning got there 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like, it's happening with him. I have no doubt that guy's going to be at least in the national title game. Like, I don't have the slightest hesitation to say that.
Yeah, but national title game, again, they've been to the national title game.
Yeah.
They need to win the national title game.
Well, they haven't been with Lanning.
That's true.
Right. Because it felt like they were there last year, but they weren't.
No, but I'm saying when the LaMichael
yeah, with
James.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
I understand. But I definitely, and I don't know why it feels a little different than Chip Kelly. I feel like Dan Lanning's, especially if he stays there, is going to take them to national title. I don't know why. I have no doubt. They have so much money. They have such a great facility.
But they've had all that.
Yeah, but not with this coaching staff. And they're still building. I think they're still building. And their roster, by the way, is not. I think they probably need a little more money. Like Ohio State was their famous $20 million payroll. I don't quite see the superstars all over that Oregon roster up and down. In 3 years, I think they can pay up and be really in this mix. Also, we're not going to have Alabama winning it every year. So I think if you look at the teams, like who's next 5 years would I want? Oregon is maybe top 2 or 3 on that list. Like who's got a brighter future than them? So I'm not so focused on them blowing this year. I'm focused on okay, didn't happen this year, but man, it could happen. Because I'm not reading that much into the blowout loss last night. Maybe I'm being naive. I'm like, they came out flat. Dan Lanning said best. He's like, yeah, we just didn't have it tonight. And he didn't even seem not that he didn't seem upset. And that sounds like a criticism of it. It was very clear. Like they got out there like, crap. Sometimes it just happens, Mag.
If I'm an Oregon fan, I'm not accepting that.
Well, you will accept in 2 or 3 years when they hoist that silver thing or that crystal ball or whatever it is, that trophy.
Definitely not a crystal ball anymore.
I know.
What is it? I have no idea.
The college football playoff trophy.
It's the logo of the playoff is the trophy.
Yeah.
It's that those 2 gold long things. I don't know. I don't like the trophy. Go back to the crystal ball.
It's not a crystal ball anymore.
That was the best trophy.
How long has that been gone? I feel bad.
For a while.
Yeah, since the college football playoff started, they haven't done the crystal ball.
It's been over a decade since the crystal ball.
They don't do the crystal ball anymore? Oh, my God.
Or about a decade, right?
Yeah.
2014 is when it started.
But I do think, I don't think Oregon looks back on this season and says, oh, man, this was our one opportunity. We blew it. I feel like this is part of a process.
855-212-4227. I don't know if Ducks fans are going to accept that. Adrian is our pal in Maryland, has a thought on why Oregon looks so flat. Adrian, what's up?
Hey, guys. Happy New Year. First and foremost, prayers go out to New Orleans and New York. Tragedy. My thing is, I think Ohio State was more battle-tested. They had more closer and tougher games. They played Penn State down basically to the wire. They played Nebraska down to the wire. Michigan, rivalry game. And Oregon just looked like that Pac-10 team they've always looked like. Some gimmicky plays, smaller, quick guys, and Ohio State just looked physical. They out-physicalitied them to the point where Oregon just basically didn't know what they were doing.
That's interesting, Adrian. Because Ohio State played a lot more close games, were they a bit more battle-tested? Because they're both Big Ten, right? So they're both playing a Big Ten schedule. Adrian, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for the call. You make us think all the time, bring up these good points.
Did Oregon they had a Wisconsin close game, went down to the wire, and Penn State kind of.
The Penn State Big Ten title game was definitely, the final score was 45-37, but that was a closer game than I think people thought it was going to be. Listen, don't forget, Oregon had early season close wins where people were questioning. Remember, it was the 24-14 win over Idaho. Boise, they escaped by winning a field goal.
They didn't look great early in the year.
Winning by a field goal, pardon me.
Yeah, Wisconsin that was
scary times.
But I think Ohio State should be tougher. This is a very unique Ohio State team because they have these big defensive players. They have Jack Sawyer's been there since I was in college, but he's they have this great defense which Ohio State never had. Of course they should be tougher. Honestly, the way the season should have played out is Ohio State should have been number one wire to wire. They're incredibly, incredibly talented. And I think Oregon. That's why I don't think this is that crushing of a loss for Oregon, because if you're a Duck fan and you honestly think we were the better team than Ohio State, I just don't know if that's true. I think you're a better coach. I don't think you're the better team.
But why wouldn't you think that?
Because you saw the game in Eugene. It was a home game. It was really closely contested. Came down to one bad call. It was too close to beat that team twice. It just feels like a tall task.
Okay, and it's one thing to lose, but the way they lost, I think, absolutely plays into this. You lose a 1-point game and you're Ohio State, that's crushing. He got boat raced in this game. It's 34-0. You're not coming back from that. Kevin is in Oregon. Kevin, how are the Ducks fans feeling this morning?
Happy New Year. The Ducks fans, well, you mentioned that it's tough to beat the same team twice in the same year, but Washington did it to Oregon last year, ended up in the finals. This year, Ohio State beat them. I think both seasons are a total wash. I don't know how the coaches and the players feel, but as a fan, I feel like the seasons were meaningless. I mean, until Oregon can get over the hump and either get to a national title game or win a national title game, they haven't proved anything.
Kevin, I think that's correct, and also that's the bar, right? And thank you for the call, and Happy New Year to you as well. The bar is national championship win or it's a bad season.
Yeah. The question is, was this supposed to be the year for Oregon? It's easy to say now that they got beat by Ohio State. I'm just because they were number one and they went undefeated, I didn't say, oh, they are such an overwhelming favorite in this thing. I thought they had a great chance. Obviously, the game was on the West Coast, but it doesn't feel like they blew it, the title, like this was their year and they blew it to me. Maybe I'm just saying that because they lost, but I didn't come in and say, man, this is all in for Oregon. If they can't get it done this year, they're never going to get it done. I think it's the opposite. I think Dan Lanning is just going to build and build and build. He just got there. He's young. He feels like to me, he just feels like a national title winning coach. And not everybody wins in their first 3 years.
855-212-4227. Perhaps we can have a second poll, EJ. I feel like Oregon blew it or something like that. What did you just say, Perloff, that it wasn't theirs to lose? Now this feels like Ohio State's tournament to lose. But coming into the college football playoff, I think it was a tough draw for Oregon. So that's what made it a little hard to say, oh, gosh, this is a perfect path for them. It's like, no, they're in the same half of the bracket as Ohio State, same half of the bracket as Texas. It's going to be tough, but I don't know.
I remember coming into the season, I said, man, if Ohio State can't win with this roster, then I don't know if they're ever going to win. I don't know if Ryan Day is going to win. Didn't feel that way. We never said that coming into the season about Oregon. I think they were ranked pretty high, but
they were ranked high. Dylan Gabriel was the preseason Heisman favorite. There was a lot going on with Oregon that would point you in the direction that this was going to be the year.
But Ohio State was a dream team coming in. And actually, I think we thought Will Howard was going to be better than he was. It's just you looked on paper, how can this team even be? This is incredible. And yeah, now we're seeing that team finally.
855-212-4227. You want to weigh in on Oregon, the disappointment, Ohio State, and how good they look, plus an epic game between Texas and Arizona State. And, of course, we've got NFL. A record could have been broken, and we're all denied watching history.
That's football.
We're going to get to that next. MMP.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff show. I am not thrilled with the state of the college football playoff. I wonder, and I'm being serious here, the structure of it is messed up. They got to fix this next year. They got to reseed. They can't have this massive buys. Like, I think the structure of it led to unentertaining football, up and down. And also, there's just been like every game, I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to see this game. And then like 15 minutes in, I'm like, oh, what am I watching?
I know. Even on the broadcast, like, can't wait. Oregon, Ohio State, that's going to be a barn burner. It's like, or it's going to be 34-0 and we're all going to.
I know, that was the one.
Fest.
Yeah, just like last round with the Tennessee game, too. I was so fired up for that game. And for some reason, the Penn State games have been just kind of unwatchable in a bizarre way. Georgia, Notre Dame, I have a feeling this is going to be some ugly football. I think they were going to be distracted because of what's happening outside. I think the teams tend to play that way anyway, right? Like they're going to want a physical defensive game. So it could be, I do not expect a very clean game today.
Doesn't mean it can't be a entertaining game.
It could be a thrilling game. I feel like this could be a bit of a smash mouth game, could be good.
Lowest point spread of any of the games so far. It's down to a point, I think. Just that.
Yeah.
But, of course, a lot more going on in the world today. Andrew Bogusch is with us, and we'll get to, I know, Perloff, you've been dying to talk about Saquon Barkley. We will get to that very soon. Bogusch has headlines, though. What's up, dude?
Maggie, as you so eloquently said earlier this morning, an all-time boot and rally yesterday from Arizona State running back
I'm quite the wordsmith.
Scadaboo.
I threw up.
puking on the sidelines, then almost single-handedly pulling the Sun Devils back into the Peach Bowl with Texas.
Levin under center, Scadaboo behind him. Turns, a toss to Scadaboo. He's looking to throw. Downfield, and that pass is caught inside the 10. Touchdown, Arizona State. Malik McClain on 4th and 2. Scadaboo throws a 42-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, the running back throwing a touchdown, unamused Perloff. He then ran for one to force overtime, then ran for another to put the Sun Devils ahead in extra time, but a passing TD and then 2 passing TDs, and an interception. Quinn Ewers throwing them, got the Longhorns to win 39-31 was the final one to get. And now Texas has to deal with Ohio State in the semifinal in Dallas next Friday. The Buckeyes, they're rolling, beating Oregon worse than they beat Tennessee in round 1. The 41-21 final yesterday at the Rose Bowl began 34-0 Buckeyes in the second quarter. Will Howard completed just 17 passes, but for 319 yards and 3 scores.
When I got guys around me that are doing what they're doing, I don't have to do much, man. I just got to put it up and give them a chance. And O-line played a hell of a game, gave me some time, and the rest is history.
Jeremiah Smith, in particular, was good yesterday. 7 catches, 187, and 2 of those touchdowns.
Okay. I've been kind of a jerk all show about sports events. I'm going to say something that's probably the meanest thing I'm going to say. I love Will Howard because he's from the Philadelphia area. But they told a story last night where he blew the end of the Oregon game by not getting down fast enough, and the clock ran out. He called his mom and had his mom come stay with him at college for 3 days. They told this story. That's so lame, dude. Oh. Come on. You mess up a final drive against Oregon and you have to have your mommy come stay with you for 3 days? What the heck? If I'm an NFL team, I am immediately putting him on a not draft list. What? He was so upset he had his mom come stay with him for 3 days. He's a football player. He's an adult football player. You mess up a football game.
Well-played adult football player, apparently.
Yeah. And also, too,
he's a college football player.
It's in the middle of whatever. It's in the middle of a season. He's an older college football player. I just thought that story was supposed to be so cool about Will Howard. And even as I can't remember who was saying it, must have been Herbie or I was like, that's kind of lame. You had to call your mom to come get you out of your football funk.
Screw this kid.
Well, do you think that he was sucking his thumb with his head on her lap, kind of sobbing himself to sleep every night?
It sounded like, I don't know, if you're an NFL team and you hear that story, is that really is that the grit you want? That basically you screwed up time management, so you had to call your mommy? I don't know. I thought that was a lame story.
Here's a question. Did she come stay with him again after the Michigan loss?
Well, that's the other thing, too. Where was she after Michigan? I don't know.
If he gets drafted by the Titans when they lose to the Jags inevitably, is mom going to have to be there? I don't know. Did you think it was lame that Allen Iverson's mom used to sit at every, game and be front row?
No. But it's a different phenomenon. To have your mom change her flight plans and come to Columbus, Ohio and stay with you when you're in college. I was in college. The last thing I wanted was my parents anywhere near what was going on.
Yeah, but no offense. There wasn't a tidal wave of people ready to run you out of town at any point when you're in New Hampshire.
What about when I got a B- on my sociology test? You don't think I wanted to call my mom and have her come cook for me? Am I alone here? That's kind of lame.
It's not a story I would repeat if I was Will Howard. Let me just say that. I'm surprised he told people this.
Perloff might be an imperfect messenger, though. You sprain your pinky finger, and you don't just tell your mom. You tell the whole world.
I put
the hundreds of thousands of social media followers. Just my pinky.
I put my X-ray. Everybody enjoys those stories. I put my X-rays out on social media. It was kind of cool. I'll show it to you right now. You want to get grossed out? I'll put it up. I don't know if Cap's doing this, but that pinkies, that's an awesome story. I didn't have my mom come to New York and cook meals for 3 days because I sprained my pinky.
I know, but you're also not Lynn Swan. You didn't lose the finger.
You mean
no?
You have the wrong
Ronnie Lott. Sorry, not Lynn Swan.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Ronnie
not Lynn Swan.
You're not either.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not Will Howard.
Ronnie Swan. You're none of those things.
Anthony Lynn.
I just think that
he's tough.
I just questioned Will Howard's toughness after that story, and although And the other thing, too, is he had plenty of time to throw against Oregon. So I don't know how tough this kid is. Like, if the pressure gets to him in the next game, is he going to hold up? Or is he going to need his mommy? Is he going to call her at halftime and be like, Mom, Texas they're putting pressure up the middle. What do? I can't find Jeremiah Smith.
Wait, did you criticize Caleb Williams when he cried in his mom's arms after USC lost
I
to
did
Notre
not
Dame?
because everybody else was criticizing him. I'm like, okay, whatever. But now that I look back on it, that explains a lot.
Happy New Year to you, Perloff with a flamethrower.
I mean, everybody else criticized him for that, but yeah, I agree with EJ. Like, why is Will Howard letting that story out? He's like a 21-year-old
Not a soul
adult.
would know that. Not a soul. If that was me, nobody would know my mom's at the crib.
Yeah,
because I lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, EJ, you got hurt. Did your mom come and help around the house?
I didn't see my parents for 2 months. Let's not get into that.
That's on your mom, dude.
Listen, to be fair, Mrs. Stewart's got 4 kids,
Maggie, your mom. If your son was at college football,
I would have ran out on the field.
yeah. So you'll fly to, when your son
Lucas
is
is starting.
quarterback at Wake Forest, you're going to fly down to Carolina and help out.
Why can't he be the quarterback at Ohio State?
That's the other thing too. Like, what are the logistics of this? Like, does he live off campus? Like, is his mom like sleeping on the couch? I don't understand any of this.
Does he have a roommate?
Yeah, like, I mean, first of all, if I'm the Ohio State quarterback, I'm too busy just partying and hooking up with women to have my mom come down, even after the loss. That's terrible. That's what I would have done.
That's why you didn't go on to play Ohio State and beat Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Because your priorities were clearly on other things.
Yeah.
Oh, I think of myself as a young man. If I was a star quarterback, I would have been too busy to actually read the playbook. I would have been celebrating.
Even Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I would have been
around the touchdowns.
Perloff's like, sorry we lost. Who's coming home with me?
I really would have been Johnny Manziel. And I think a lot of us would have been. I think anyway. God, if I had a body part anyone wanted to see. Yeah. Trust me. Andrew Perloff, the JV basketball player, English major. Guy's got a set on him. Yeah. Yeah. He would have been doing some damage in college if he was a star quarterback, but nope, wasn't meant to be.
If you were on the full Dartmouth varsity, you'd have been big time?
Not really.
No.
I don't think so.
You want my Will Howard hot take from yesterday just for some company?
Please, yeah.
After one of the touchdowns, I don't know which one it was, but the camera followed him running back to the sideline, and his run was so goofy. And I was like, that's Will Howard?
Yeah.
He survives running like that? It was a weird, like, giddy up kind of thing going on. And he was, like, too excited. I didn't like that.
Also,
the mom thing doesn't help either.
Yeah, and then they showed his mom and his sister holding hands. That was actually really cool. But also, Will Howard like throws this nice touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith, and you see Jeremiah Smith looks all jacked, and then Will Howard takes his helmet off. It's like, that dork just threw that pass.
Oh my gosh!
He's just like looks like a normal guy, right? Like, and then he plays like a cool guy, but then he takes his helmet off, and he's like, "Here I am, I'm Will Howard."
I don't even know if it's irony, but the audacity for Andrew Perloff to call anyone else a dork is beyond.
But I'm not a Division I star quarterback. I'm in. Yeah.
Yes. You guys wouldn't pass your own tests here. Like if someone was holding you up to the microscope in this
Maggie,
way,
I'm showing you a picture.
Pass.
You're telling me that guy looks like a star quarterback? He looks like, the guy next door.
Listen, we've all had lame haircuts in our life.
We know,
it's not a crime.
We know there's something called face drafting where the NFL wants handsome quarterbacks. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
Our buddy John Wertheim did a whole book on it.
It was, the whole thing about how you have to have facial bone structure apparently to play that.
Will Howard does not have it. He just looks like an average guy.
That is not true. He could have a Joe Burrow like glow up, and he is perfectly handsome guy. Dorcas Malorcas.
Totally disagree. I think he falls.
You throw him in a backless tuxedo and look out.
I'm questioning your scouting report there, Maggie Gray. Totally questioning your scouting report, and I don't think he goes in the first round because of this.
No. He's not going to the first round because he's been wildly inconsistent this season.
That's because of his facial structure.
To make this a full Will Howard segment, the third Will Howard take is I could not believe that none of the Ohio State players would get off the stage so that Will Howard could get on the stage to actually be at the trophy ceremony.
That was crazy. How come he couldn't get on there?
So I was watching the video this morning. So he said that there was a weight requirement on the stage. So apparently they had missed. They were at the limitation. Meanwhile, it's a 320 defensive lineman looking at him like, "Hey, bud, I'm sorry, they're not letting you up." I'm like, dude, get off the stage. He's the quarterback. What are you talking about?
Well, to be fair, that O-line really did some work. They really were the MVPs probably of that game yesterday. But isn't Howard a captain?
Yeah, he's a captain. He's a quarterback. Yeah, I mean. And also, like...
Yeah, let the quarterback.
Yeah, if the stage collapses and something bad happens, I think they'll be fine. It was not like we were talking about they were on some, like, 30-foot platform. It's like a 5-foot platform. And you see this guy in a suit, who looks like the guy from the Last Dance video that, that was playing cards with Jordan. He's like, sorry, bud, can't let you on here. And he's like, but I'm the quarterback. Don't care.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guy, let him on the stage.
Anybody could throw to those receivers. He said next. It is a
before he shrugged.
It is a historic group of receivers Will Howard is throwing to. They are crazy. By the way, the MVP Jeremiah Smith, like, hey, I got a game plan for you in the next game. Throw to Jeremiah Smith on every single play. He beats double teams. He's like Calvin Johnson. He's insane. So again, back to Will Howard.
Ugly.
Can I move the
fourth round pick. Third and fourth round pick. He'll be a good, solid, long-time backup.
How this started was they shared a story that Perloff thought was not great. Didn't put Will Howard in a great light, that his mom had to come stay with him after they lost to Oregon the first time, the only time, earlier this year. Can we move the spotlight just a little away from that? I know, Bogusch, you have more to do, but was anyone else thinking this about Jeremiah Smith? And I know we still have a long way to go with Marvin Harrison Jr., but we called Marvin Harrison Jr. as like going to be no doubt 4th overall pick. He's going to be offensive rookie of the year, although you had Jaden Daniels, Perloff, so good for you. But it was like, oh, it's going to automatically click at the next level. Like he's going to come in and dominate. It's like it didn't happen. It didn't happen this year, literally, for a guy who we're saying the exact same stuff about.
No, I think Smith's better. He's bigger than Harrison. I think he weighs more than Harrison. Like
he looks gigantic.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing about Jeremiah Smith. He's so big. I think I said Marvin Harrison is the best prospect I've seen in forever. But also Marvin Harrison went to the wrong team. That's pretty obvious. Like Arizona's offense is a mess. So, and I think he's pretty good. I'm not worried about him. He'll be fine. I don't know if Arizona's ever going to switch quarterbacks. But I don't think he's a bust. Like
he's not a bust.
bust.
I'm saying we have a long way to go with Marvin Harrison, but we just talked about, hey, if anyone can hit the ground running and be a game changer for an offense, and I think that did not happen for Arizona.
I think Jeremiah Smith would go number 1 over both quarterbacks in this year's draft. I think he's that good. I could be totally off on that, but I don't know. I haven't seen anybody. And I think Ibuka goes 12, and I think Carnell Tate goes 10. Like these guys are, and they just had Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison and JSN. Like what is going on with that Ohio State team? You have to admit, like it was impressive last night. The way the receivers got separation, and once they caught the ball, they couldn't get tackled. I'm into it.
Bogusch, what else you got to do?
Can you believe, by the way, that he was playing against high school kids last year?
No.
Like, what were those games
it's
like?
the same as Ryan
Williams.
Ryan Williams.
He's 17. But Ryan Williams hit a rookie wall. Jeremiah Smith is getting better.
Imagine like the kid that works at your bowling alley who, like, during the football season, he's covering Jeremiah Smith on the. He's like, all right, back to the bowling alley.
Imagine those coaches' meetings. Well, I guess Timmy's going to chase him around the field for a little bit.
I think he's finished tutoring, tutoring Bob.
Right. The Kansas City Chiefs are giving us a late Christmas gift. Carson Wentz starts Sunday against the Broncos.
Obviously, we know the circumstances. We know, kind of where we're at and the reason I'm playing, not Pat and all the things. But I still go out there and expect to win. I'm going to prepare to go out there and win and then, have a good performance with this offense. And, we're preparing for that.
Hang those broken posters back up. KC is resting Patrick Mahomes and other key players in a meaningless game for them, but Denver is playing for a wild card spot, so avoiding Mahomes is pretty helpful.
Can I put the Carson Wentz poster back up when he is the Giants starting quarterback next year, Andrew Bogusch?
If he's the Giants starting quarterback, you can do whatever you want. Short shorts every day.
I just feel like this game, this meaningless Week 18 game, is a bit of a tryout for Carson Wentz for where he's going to start next year, believe it or not.
No, I think you're probably right about that. But I don't know. So many teams have given up on him now. By the way, so we put out a social media post of our top 5 moments from the year. And we had played a few of them last week before we went on vacation. Perloff short shorts are so much shorter than I remember that day.
With this year or last year?
The fact that we even have to ask
The
that.
answer is yes.
This year, when you dressed as the 1980s football coach,
Yes. That's just how they wore them back
Guys
then.
got
I
a
was
set
being
on 'em.
accurate.
they're just so short. They're not Daisy Dukes necessarily, but they kind of.
I mean, they basically are,
They kinda were
except
that
for like
short.
the shredded denim. They're Daisy Dukes.
It's more poly blend.
Yeah, but that's exactly. I actually
No.
was
We
identical.
remember. It was us being too close to you dressed like that. That's the problem.
In my mind, like they weren't
Again,
that short.
I keep showing you. Look at Joe Gibbs' package in these shorts right here.
No.
I just wanted to utter that sentence.
I
Big
don't
long
want
one.
anything to do with Joe Gibbs's package.
But we're not talking about his auto racing plan. Here.
I'm not sure what
Brings
a
and
chassis
struts.
is, but I
That's
don't
a pit crew.
know what that is.
Feel the pipe?
Manny, there's no end to these. Sheesh.
He just added another one to the rotation, too.
Yeah.
That's our gift to you in the new year.
Oh my God, you're right. They were short, but honestly, like, what's the deal? Joe Gibbs's shorts are cut like right up. He looks like Britney Spears. This is the way men should dress. Short shorts are.
No, it's not.
Yes, they are. This is a thing.
You stood up
You got
from
it,
behind
flaunt
the
it.
desk, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm very proud of my short
We
shorts.
know you didn't. It was our problem. Mine specifically.
It's always Bogusch's
The other thing
problem.
about this Joe Gibbs thing is that the shorts are also added as like belly button too.
That's how you gotta wear them.
It's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's where the hook was.
That button was doing work.
Oh, there's a coach next to him.
Joe Gibbs isn't even
honestly,
big. Parcells' button was doing
Yeah.
work.
Like the assistant coach, his shorts come up to right below his chest. It's insane. God, people were cool back then.
You got two options, though, if you're a man of that age wearing short shorts. You either go low and the belly kind of goes over. Again, Joe Gibbs wasn't big, but like the belly goes over, or you just tuck in the belly.
Yeah, but there's a different thing with whatever was going on in the football world. Like they all, like Parcells, like they all dress like that.
I know.
It
I don't
was
think there were
tragic.
any mirrors in the building.
They didn't have mirrors back in the 1981 Giants.
It's the only explanation I can come up with.
Thank you to the Fab Five for getting this crap out of here.
You know what?
But they're back in now.
I know.
But
Not,
then
for,
again-
not for old men though. This
Yeah,
more
yeah,
the
right.
young
It's one thing if Jalen Green is wearing short shorts. Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
No,
It's
think of
another-
like when Brett Bielema and Shane Beamer got into it on the sideline, right? And Brett Bielema is basically wearing like a smock.
Yeah.
It's like open on the sides, like there's venting.
Yeah, he's got like a Snuggie on.
Yeah, but like he's not wearing the short shorts. We're not doing that with the tight sweater. Just like deal with it, America. Like he's hiding it. He's trying to. He's like wearing a tent.
Yeah. Kind of like, Andy Reid.
Yeah, right. Andy Reid, same thing. God, how many people did we take out? Just Will Howard,
80s coaches.
80s coaches.
They
We are
deserved
mean.
it. Will probably didn't deserve
Will
what he got.
definitely didn't deserve it because his mom came and stayed with him after a horrible loss.
No, I mean, listen, Will Howard could win the national title and raise his draft stock. But at the end of the day, I think teams are going to be like, hey, did you hear that story about his mom had to come after the Oregon loss? It's going to be a huge red flag.
Can we put that as a poll? Is it a red flag that Will Howard's mom came to console him after they lost to Oregon?
Yes. Worded exactly like that.
855-212-4227. Bogues, thanks. Lots to do. Oh, I'm excited to get to this topic. Getting a little nervous about Kaelen DeBoer. Alabama could not get to double-digit wins this season. We get to that in your phone calls next.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Hey, Robin, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. My name is Robert from San Francisco, not San Fran. I know you sports people do that.
Did I say San Fran? I think I said San Francisco.
No, you said San Fran. That's what set me off to call you. The name of our city is San Francisco. The second thing I'd like to say, okay, we hate that. We locals hate that. The name of our city is San Francisco. Unless you were watching a different game than what I was watching.
Yeah.
I think that 2 runs that Brock Purdy had something to do with them advancing and winning this game.
Robin, I said he used his legs and his scrambling kept the comeback alive. I think you kind of have an axe to grind with me beyond the Brock Purdy.
I have an axe to grind to you. No, I don't have. Don't project to me. I'm telling you what I heard and what I.
Okay, well, the first thing you said to me was, "Don't call our city San Fran," like you were wildly offended, which I don't even know if I said that.
I'm offended. I am offended by it because
that's insane to be offended by that.
You are such a smart aleck. Bye.
I'm not a smart aleck. I just don't want to get a. I think she kind of had it out for me a little bit before we even got started there. San Fran is offended. Did I even say San Fran?
I don't know if you said, but I'm with Robin.
Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining.
My name is Robert from San Francisco, not...
Hey, Robin, how you doing?
My name is Robert from San Francisco, not San Fran.
1 minute remaining.
I know you sports people do that.
Did I say San Fran? I think I said San Francisco.
No, you said San Fran. That's what set me off to call you. The name of our city is San Francisco. The second thing I'd like to say, okay, we hate that. We
45
hate
seconds
that.
remaining.
The name of our city is San Francisco. Unless you were watching a different game than what I was watching,
yeah,
I think that 2 runs that Brock Purdy had,
30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Happy New Year from Lil Jon and the rest of us, the Maggie and Perloff show. We've been talking a lot about the college football playoff this morning, a little bit about the NFL, but Pearl, we got to stop for a second on a game that now is a bit in the rearview mirror, but I think that the implications are going to still be felt for a little bit, and that is Alabama losing to Michigan on New Year's Eve in the ReliaQuest Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Okay. ReliaQuest Bowl. So obviously it was always going to be a huge thing to replace Nick Saban. We all know that. We acknowledge it. I think it makes it even harder for head coach Kaelen DeBoer to replace Nick Saban when Nick Saban is still very much in our lives. He's on game day. He's in every other commercial. He is not retreated to a life of obscurity. He is very much still in our lives. So to not get to 10 wins, though, with the shadow of Saban, not be in the college football playoff, and then have, quite frankly, like a horrible loss in this bowl game. I know it doesn't like technically mean anything, but you were a 17-point favorite in this game, and you got absolutely crushed. And not just that, but I read this on CBSSports.com. The Alabama Crimson Tide had as many losses this season when they were a 14-point favorite or more than they had in Nick Saban's entire tenure. In Nick Saban's whole tenure, they were 135-3 as 14-point favorites or more. This year, they were 6-3 as 14-point favorites or more. And again, from CBSSports.com. So I think that, fans were probably incensed when they lost to Vandy. And then you're just out of your mind when they lose to Oklahoma. And now, again, this is a bowl game. Sure, it doesn't mean a lot, but you were a 17-point favorite against Michigan. And it was like you no-showed.
Yeah. I'm not as concerned about the bowl game. I mean, bowl games that aren't playoff games now are pretty much insignificant. I mean, what do you expect when you hire the guy in January? Like he was behind the eight ball. There's just no way about it. The structure, the way the college game is today with the transfer portal and NIL, like you can't expect Kaelen DeBoer to have a real season. Like they probably should have been Michigan this year. They probably should have been a 7 or 8 win team. I think they actually almost outperformed. I think they beat Georgia and raised the expectations too high because he didn't have a full season. I think to judge him is unfair.
Okay, but here's the thing. Even if he got a late start, so to speak, and wasn't able to have his full transfer portal or whatever, they were always going to roll with Milroe. It's not like they were going to bring a quarterback in over him. And Kaelen DeBoer, look at the work he did with Michael Penix. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, but look at the receivers that Penix had there. Like, basically, Milroe had Ryan Williams, and Williams fell off. I mean, there's no way he hit a wall. Like, was he even around the second half of the season?
Okay, but they also had weeks off before this game.
Yeah, I just think that Ryan Williams but it was really only one player on that offense. Ryan Williams, I just don't think Milroe had a lot to work with. I don't think that was a real DeBoer offense. I don't think Milroe was a fit with DeBoer, basically style-wise. So again, I don't really think Kaelen DeBoer had a chance to show what he can do as a coach.
Man, I'm not worried. I'm not worried yet if I'm an Alabama fan, not yet. But Milroe,
well, he's gone. So what's the difference?
I think you've seen enough with Milroe that. And sometimes he looks so super talented, he looks like he can't be beat. And other times he looks completely lost, like he did in the first half of the Michigan game. I think you have to get some new blood in at quarterback. Yeah. He should definitely not go to the NFL.
He's definitely going to the NFL.
That's ridiculous. He should go back to college and try to raise his stock a little bit.
I'd be surprised if he didn't go to the NFL.
And then who's going to draft him? And if you're an NFL team, are you excited that Jalen Milroe is coming to your team? I don't think so.
We've seen
only.
quarterbacks who have not had success passing consistently in college get drafted high. Anthony Richardson,
J.J. McCarthy, and Anthony. Yeah, but Anthony Richardson, how's that going?
Well, J.J. McCarthy, at least I think was accurate. I not great. I mean, not bad. He wins a lot of games. I'm not sure. I don't think he's a first round pick myself. Based on he has this thing, he can't feel the pressure around him. Like the fumbles are crazy, and it comes from behind him, and that's like his one major blind spot. I don't know if that's on Kaelen DeBoer or on Milroe. It feels like who's the backup who played in Washington, Austin Mack, I think. Like when he has gotten some opportunities, apparently I was reading he runs DeBoer's offense better, even though he's not as talented. So I think you got to give DeBoer time. I was looking today, January 12th, he came in there. That is way behind in college terms. Also, inarguably your best player, Caleb Downs. Did you see Caleb Downs yesterday?
He does everything.
He's Superman. Yeah. And he left. I know some of the guys left and came back, but generally it was a tough spot for DeBoer. So I'm not going to kill him. I think you really have to give him another chance.
No, I mean, he's not going to get fired now. He's done nothing to do that. It's just to have losses when you're that big of favorites, I feel like always comes back on the coach.
See, I don't this year because you didn't really see his system. He was not a fit with Milroe. Milroe and him just didn't make any sense. I think they both did the best they could.
855-212-4227 for the Alabama fans. You start to get a little nervous about Kaelen DeBoer. I mean, there's also a reality here, which is you're not going to be competing. Let me put that differently. It's not that you're not going to be competing for national titles, and it's not that you're not going to be competing to get to the college football playoff. It's just not an inevitability anymore.
Well, you have a much bigger problem than Kaelen DeBoer. Can you compete financially? Like, it's been revealed that Alabama just does not have the money of like an Ohio State. There's just not that kind of fan base.
855-212-4227. All right, lots more to do, including has someone finally quieted their critics once and for all? Get to that next. And
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Ready to take the snap. Has the snap. 4th and 13. Ewers looking. Fires. He's got Golden open. He caught it. Touchdown, Texas. Matthew Golden strikes again. 28 yards on 4th down and 13. And the Longhorns score a touchdown.
Thank you to the Longhorns Radio Network. Wow, what a game yesterday. The rest of the college football playoff has kind of been a bit of a snooze, but we got a double overtime thriller yesterday early afternoon, and Texas advances, but man, did Arizona State try to do everything they could, and particularly Cam Scatterbo, who looked like he was left for dead at one point on the sideline. Pearl, he's puking his guts out, and he comes back to not only throw a touchdown pass, guy's a running back, but to throw the touchdown pass that really turned the tide and, was bowling over 300-pound linemen for Texas to get into the end zone. But that Quinn Ewers 4th and 13 in overtime send the game to double OT, and that's where Texas won it. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy game. I do feel like we've been arguing about it all show that the storyline was Texas really should have won that game handily. Like, to me, credit Arizona, sure, but man, what were the Longhorns doing? They had a chance early in the game to pull away, and their offense just stalled completely. I mean, this was not, this wasn't even a good Cam Scatterbo game. Like the Big 12 title game, he was unstoppable. They had him solved, Maggie. They had that quarterback running for his life. They had that game in their hand, and they screwed around. If they had walked out of that game with an L, that would have been such a huge problem for Steve Sarkisian, because you're going to look back, you're going to see the next 2 NFL drafts are going to be filled with Longhorns, and they're not going to be a lot of Arizona State guys. And yet, you're going to say, well, how did that become a game?
I think it was honestly a little bit of both, probably. I think it was a little of Texas getting away from what made sense. And 2, I think Arizona State deserves a lot of credit because the game was, 17-3 at the half, right, and Arizona State made this a football game. And, Cam Scatterbo, just the amount of moments that he had in the game yesterday, even in a loss. And this was an all-time great game. And it wasn't a perfect game. By no means was it a perfect game, but was an epic game. And it was one of the great games that I've seen in college football. And I don't think I'm being a prisoner of the moment here. Listen,
one of the great games?
Yes, one of the great games in college football. This had it all. It had punt return for a touchdown. It had fake punt to keep a drive alive. It had improbable comeback, a 16-point deficit that one team was in going into the fourth quarter. They overcome it. A controversial call where there was a clear, at least to me, targeting against an Arizona State wide receiver that got reviewed and never got called. You got a doinked field goal, missed field goal, overtime, and then we just played it for you, the 4th and 13 to tie the game. That and the 2-point conversion. It was, the extra point. It was crazy. It had it all.
It was a mistake-filled mess, and Texas is going to lose their next game. And then in a month, actually in a year, let's look back on it. Honestly, some of the, you're right, there were a lot of little things, and I know you like little things, like when the ball girl walked in front of Bert Arburn when he was preparing for the kick.
How about Steve Sarkisian? Yeah. Okay, so Bert Auburn, who I feel like has been kicking field goals as long as I've been alive. This guy has made more field goals in the history of Texas, where Justin Tucker went to school, right? So this guy is very prolific. He misses a 48-yarder. So then he's lining up for the 34-yarder to try to win the thing in regulation. Mm-hmm. And Steve Sarkisian goes at that point to give him like the big pep talk. Dude, get away from him. Get away from him. I think the coach believed he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But it clearly, I don't know if that messed up his rhythm or he was just overcompensating because he had missed to the right and then he missed to the left. Steve Sarkisian, you got to know better. Just let the dude go out there.
I was actually kidding about it. A lot of people are talking about these two ball girls walked right in front of him in his final warm-up kick, and you could see him be like, what the? He almost kicked it right into them, and he got off his game, the whole thing. And by the way, he's got a kick in the next game, and his confidence is clearly shot. That could be a problem if it was a close game. I don't know. I understand the epic game part of this. I just think, oh, my God, like it just like spoke to the low quality of play this entire college football playoff to me.
See, no, I don't think so. I think you could look at blowouts, and there have been a lot of non-competitive games, and we'll get to the Rose Bowl in a second, which was not very competitive between Ohio State and Oregon. But this, to me, last night was exactly what you're hoping the college football playoff could be at its very best. It's college football. It's never going to be perfect, right?
Well, it's going to be better than that.
See, I don't know.
It's going to be the quality of play is definitely going to be better than that.
You know, here's the
You didn't have Arizona State couldn't do anything for the first 56 minutes of the game. They just their offense was stuck in mud.
I know, but see, isn't that the beauty of college football, that they needed not only 2 touchdowns, but 2 two-point conversions to keep themselves alive in this game, and they got it, including a big interception on Quinn Ewers when they should have been trying to run the ball and run more clock anyway. So,
but they couldn't. Their running game was pathetic yesterday. It was terrible. You have 3 NFL offensive linemen, and you can't get more than 2 yards on any carries?
Have you seen the final stats in terms of rushing? The Arizona State Sun Devils had 214 yards rushing.
Yeah.
How many yards do you think Texas had rushing?
60?
53. You're right.
Well,
and
by
that's
the way,
again on Sark.
Again, no, on Arizona State. Look at that. How many carries did it take to get to that number?
Stand by. I gotta.
Oh, sorry.
I gotta do some math here.
But yeah, they definitely. I saw they average about 4 yards a carry, way down on the season for them.
49 carries.
Yeah, I mean they definitely couldn't run the ball like they normally do. So credit because Texas. That's my point. Texas was so much better. You would say hike, and the 2 defensive tackles would beat their man immediately and start running after Levitt on every play. Like Texas should have won that game more handily. Credit Arizona State all the heart in the world to stay in that game. Credit Cam Scatterboo. I don't know how he got in on that overtime touchdown when he slingshot in the end zone. Incredible. The guy does not give up. But to be honest, he never should have been in that position. Texas should have put their foot on the gas early in the game. I think they got a little tight once they got that early lead and didn't play like themselves.
Poll question to update you on: was Texas-Arizona State an all-time great college football game? 52% of you still saying no. I don't think we're being prisoner of the moment here, because it's not just me. EJ and Manny and Bogusch, we all came in this morning, and I think we're pretty level-headed. I mean, Manny thinks all of human history started in the year 2000. But
that's correct, yes.
We're slowly breaking down that barrier.
No, we're not.
All-time epic game, right, EJ?
Absolutely. Yeah, again, the great games of all time often have a lot of mistakes, like massive mistakes in the Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Giants. I talk about Catholic conference all the time, Notre Dame, Miami, massive mistakes in that game. Mistakes are going to happen. It's all about the excitement. At the end of the day, that was a really exciting game. To go into that fourth quarter, the last 6 minutes, and you're like, the pendulum swings, you don't know who is going to win. That's what you want in the game at the end of the day. And I know Texas, obviously, they have what we think is a great quarterback in Ewers and what we think is a great play caller in Steve Sarkisian, but I'll be honest, when they've played against great defensive teams, that's what they look like. This idea that, they should have had way more points, way more yards. I'm like, I don't know. I watched them against Georgia.
Yeah.
This is kind of what they look like. How much of Texas' schedule has been them just pounding terrible teams and terrible defenses? Maybe when they play against playoff caliber teams, this is more of who they are. So I don't know if I accept the idea that Texas should have just rolled over them. Maybe they're just not that good.
Yeah, but I mean, why can't they run on Arizona State? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Arizona State's defense has really come around this year. And I mean, you watched the Big 12 championship game. I mean, Iowa State, they couldn't breathe. I mean, they look smaller. They don't look like they should be a great defense. But again, I ask you, in the Texas games that aren't against Cream Puffs, how is their offense looking?
I looked pretty good in the last game. I mean, it looked real good.
Against Clemson? I mean, Clemson gave up how many points to SMU in the second half? Like, I can't. Clemson's defense is not the same. It's not the same Clemson defense we saw years ago.
Also, they were an 11-point favorite in that game.
Right. They did what they were supposed to do in that game. At home, too.
Yeah, but were they an 11-point? What was the spread in Arizona State? What's the difference?
I thought it was smaller.
Arizona State's a better team than Clemson. That's clear. Arizona State.
Anyway,
I don't know what the spread was on this game. I don't remember.
I mean, listen, Arizona State is not exactly a world beater this year, and they were without, as we talked about, their best receiver. Their passing game was completely non-existent.
I guess my question, though, is that looking at Texas moving forward, they have this massive game against Ohio State. Like we say, again, Texas has this high-powered offense. We think they should, but I just don't know when we see them against good teams if that's the kind of offense you're going to see.
Well, that's because Ewers is not playing well. I mean, I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if the abductor, the ankle, is still bothering him, but he's definitely not playing his best, and that's why I think everyone, honestly, like, they're not going to do it now, but go to Arch.
Yeah, but to be fair to Ewers, it was not an amazing game, but 4th and 13 to Matthew Golden, that will be an all-time Texas play, whether they get beat in the next round or not.
Yeah, but I do think if they get killed by Ohio State, I think a lot of people are going to say, man, this was a mistake. They really should have gone to Arch. Because I think Ewers is a little bit hurt. I really do. I don't think he's looked like himself. The interception, for example, like, that's not a Quinn Ewers throw. It was in the air for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That was a huge mistake. I think Quinn Ewers is not really showing himself well in this particular college football playoff, to the point where I don't think he's going to be able to go to the NFL this year.
Well, I'll be honest. If my team was drafting Quinn Ewers, I don't think I'd be that excited about it.
So
Especially
that means
considering where he started, which was this high school phenom, and then Ohio State, and then to Texas. And it's like we've been waiting and waiting, and he's had flashes. He beat Alabama in Alabama when Nick Saban was still the coach by double digits. Last year, college football playoff, 4 games, like, we've been expecting a lot from Quinn Ewers as well.
It's going to be a really interesting test, college football-wise. What happens to him in the offseason? There was a report that he got a $6 million offer, and we don't know what school it is. Is he going to transfer portal? Does he go to the NFL? Or does he try to stay at Texas?
You can't. You cannot.
That's out. Okay, so that's off the table.
Because
but
if he stays, then Arch is going to hit the portal.
Just like, even think about it, like, what is the possible, like, $6 million offer? Are we talking about Ohio State again?
I'm actually surprised.
I can't go back to Ohio State.
No, I'm actually surprised you're taking that at face value. You always have your eyebrow raised on all of this stuff, like, oh, no way he's really getting that, or no way this. To me, the $6 million offer for Quinn Ewers made me think twice.
My only point is, like, he's definitely the number one quarterback in the transfer. The kid out of Tulane got $8 million, and I've heard that's a totally real deal for 2 years at Duke. Duke is paying $8 million, a 2-year deal. Like, Quinn Ewers is going to get $6 million. That's not a lot of money. Where's he going? Like, what's his future? Is it? I don't even know.
Belichick?
I'm just trying to.
Does he go to North Carolina?
North Carolina. Oh, God.
Well, Drake May just came from North Carolina, not with Belichick.
Drake May is 6'4", and Greek God. I don't know. I don't see that. Maybe North Carolina. Oh. Do you guys like that fit?
I mean, why not, right? Like,
because
give him a name.
Play for Belichick, you might have a better shot of, him helping you get into the NFL.
Yeah, but you have this wild talent around you at Texas. Like, you can't go to a sort of Bill Belichick conservative scheme with sans any talent.
I kind of think in some ways it could help his stock, though, because I think a lot of us look at the Sarkisian offense and say, oh, well, this is just somebody, just a system quarterback, like we saw with Mac Jones, right? Like, Mac Jones had Devontae Smith and all these guys, and he put up these great numbers. So it's like, well, how can you not draft him in the first round? Well, now we know why we shouldn't have drafted him in the first round, right? So I feel like with some of these players we've seen playing in Sark's system, maybe it's good to get out. Go play under Josh McDaniels and put up numbers. And I'll say, okay, if he can do that with Josh McDaniels, then maybe he's pretty damn good. Maybe he's something I didn't think.
I don't see that happening. I really don't see that happening.
212-4227. Meanwhile, though, still got games to play for Quinn Ewers because he did come up with that massive 4th and 13 play. They were able to convert in overtime to send it to double overtime. Texas wins. Thrilling game. And now they get the fun job of trying to play Ohio State, which is clearly the best team in the tournament.
Yeah, thanks, no thanks.
Yeah, wow, good luck with all that. So Ohio State just absolutely brought it to Oregon in what I believe was the most stunning result from this entire college football playoff so far, and I don't even think it's close.
Can I ask you a quick Arch question?
Sure.
Because as we talked about a couple weeks ago before you guys left, where was the Arch package of him running around doing, like, they couldn't run the football? What happened to that?
Well, EJ, maybe you were correct in your, I don't know if I call it conspiracy theory, but you had a theory that the Manning family told Sark, cut that out of making Arch a human battering ram at the goal line. That's not what we're here for. That's not what he should be used for. He's not your Cam Scattaboo. He's the next Eli and Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that could very well be true. Also, were there any short yardage situations? They basically, after the first quarter, they were in 3rd and 8 for the entire game until the one drive where somebody put smelling salts under the coaching staff's nose and woke them up.
Honestly, 10 penalties for 90 yards in this game.
There was a lot of short yards. There weren't, like, their offense was just not functional for a big chunk of that game. Very strange. It was a very, very strange game for Sark and that Texas offense. Like, for example, the big play at the end, the 4th and 13 touchdown.
Yeah.
If you can make that play, why can't you make that play more than once in the game?
I know,
or
but
twice?
That's like when you run the 2-minute offense, and it's like, just run the hurry up the whole time. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't convert 4th and 13 all the time. That was just desperate.
No, I know, but the offense and the next drive where they scored on the first play, like, you see Texas when the offense clicks, it looks great, but it doesn't seem like they can have any consistency with Ewers.
You know, a team I thought was going to be really consistent was Oregon, because they've been consistent this year. Once they got through that early season, couple working out the kinks, and then they beat Ohio State in Autzen Stadium. They were the number 1 team in the country from that point on and never looked back. And they deserve to be the number 1 team in the country. And they just got taken to the woodshed yesterday in the Rose Bowl. 34-0. And it almost felt like before you could blink. And then they scored a touchdown and got a 2-point conversion before the end of the half and scored again in the second half. And I think it was 40-15 at one point. Maybe in 35-15.
Yeah, it was 34-15, so it might have been 41-15 after the extra point.
All right. Nope. They just could not have – they had no answer for Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver, in the first half. And in the second half, they had no answer for the run game at all. And it was... And
defensively, they had no answer. Caleb Downs somehow was in Dylan Gabriel's head the entire game. Gabriel had nothing. He was trying to get into tight windows. It just wasn't there offensively, which is weird because we've seen that offense move at will.
It was odd. 855-212-4227. Yeah, I mean, just a bitter ending for Oregon. Bitter. And unfortunately, because the bar is raised so high for that program, it really, I don't say you throw out the whole season, but I don't know. I think it's almost honestly the respect we give to Oregon that if you don't win the whole thing or even at least get to the title game, can you really call it a successful season?
Well,
I mean, I know a coach will because they'll say number 1, we were number 1 all year and all of that. And I'm not saying nothing good happened this year, but how do you not just have a bitter taste in your mouth and that's just sort of how you end it?
I don't, because I think you're on a trajectory towards a national title. I know that technically you got farther last year being in the Final Four and you were Final 8, but that's just the way the seeding laid out. I think this is a building block. I don't know actually who's going to be the quarterback, but if they have somebody lined up for next year, but I think like you clearly see the progression towards a title contender. Like he's going to be there every year. Don't you feel like with that money and that coaching staff, like they're in great position in the NIL world to be like Alabama and Georgia were before? I think things are looking up for the program. I'm not feeling depressed at all. I mean, yeah, I'm depressed about yesterday in the short term, but I would watch out for Dan Lanning in Oregon. I would not count them out by any means. I do not think they're a flash in the pan.
They're not a flash in the pan, but this has got to be, really bitter because – listen, you had a tough road in the college football playoff once the seeding came out or once you saw your draw, it was going to be tough. But
yeah, you were an underdog.
Yeah, but when is it going to line up for you again like this?
Well, now it's like college basketball. where there's not going to be a wire-to-wire number one dominant team anymore. Now you got to just get into the field and hope for the
Except
best.
for UConn.
Yeah, well, I know, but before UConn did it, what was the last repeat champion?
855.
It doesn't happen anymore.
212-4227. Okay. So obviously we're talking a lot about the games that happen. We still have one more game that needs to be played, and that is the Sugar Bowl, which will happen today at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And the reason it's being played today is a horrific one for a horrific reason, because of the tragedy that happened on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve with the terrorist attack that killed 15 people and injured dozens more. Matt Baker was covering the Sugar Bowl for The Athletic. He is now covering an open investigation along with a football game. He's going to join us next. It's Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
What a horrible way to wake up on New Year's Day. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray and Perloff, with the news of what had happened in New Orleans. The tragedy on Bourbon Street where a terrorist attack, terrorist ramming his car into a crowd of people, just absolutely devastating. 15 people are dead, dozens more are hurt, and obviously a community is mourning, and our hearts are heavy as well. How it intersects with sports, and which is our territory here, and usually the sandbox of life that we get to play around in, is that the Sugar Bowl has been postponed until today, Perloff. So Matt Baker is in New Orleans covering the Sugar Bowl for The Athletic. He's a national college sports reporter for The Athletic and is, we said, in New Orleans and was in New Orleans, obviously, on New Year's Eve evening. Matt, thank you so much for the time. We're so relieved that you are safe and sound. How are things feeling down in New Orleans right now?
Well, thanks for having me. It's a little eerie, not going to lie. I was walking around yesterday trying to figure out what press conferences where, doing my job, and you walk by kind of the entrance to Bourbon Street, and there's a white coroner's van parked there 7 hours after the tragedy, the attack, whatever you want to call it. So that's a little jarring. And, just on a personal level, my wife and kid are here. We stopped by New Orleans for me to do some work covering the game on our way home from visiting family for Christmas. And what do we do with the family, right? Do they need to leave? Do they stay? Where are we going to eat? Like, are we comfortable going out for dinner? Like, all this stuff. It's weird and eerie in that way. But it's also, this is going to sound really odd, it's weirder that it's not weirder, if that makes sense. Like, what happened was obviously was awful, right? But there's still a lot of the city that's going around doing almost not business as usual, because it can't be. But there's still parts of it that feel normal, right? Like, the Ohio State-Oregon game, I was able to watch the second half or so of that last night after I finished up most of the work. And, there was a bunch of people in the hotel lobby, drinking, eating dinner, whatever it is, and all watching the game together. That felt normal in a sense, except it wasn't, because there's all these security around. So it's one of the more surreal things I've ever experienced in my career, and God, I hope I don't have to do it again.
Matt, how crowded is New Orleans this week? How many people were down before this happened? How many people are still there? Is it? Maggie and I have been for Super Bowl weeks, and it's quite crowded. But I imagine this is Mardi Gras level crowds.
Yeah, it was pretty darn crowded. The couple days leading up to it, sidewalks were busy, lots of people around. I haven't really been to New Orleans before, just a little bit here and there, so I don't have a great experience to compare it with. But it was certainly crowded, and lots of people out and about, crowded restaurants, all that stuff. Bands going by, and what you would expect New Orleans to be. It certainly lived up to my expectations there, and it has been more muted. Obviously in the last 24 hours. And as far as the football aspect of it, the game this afternoon, I don't know what to expect from an attendance aspect, right? There were concerns anyway with the college football playoff being as big as it is, and the bowl sites. If I'm a Georgia fan, do I want to spend my money going to a quarterfinal? Do I want to save it for a semifinal? Now you add in this layer where, I certainly know I've heard of people who were going to go to the game and you know what? I'm out of here. I don't feel safe. I'm not going to do it. So I don't know what to expect from that perspective here in a few hours at the Superdome.
Matt Baker is joining us. He covers college football for The Athletic and covers college sports for The Athletic. He's in New Orleans covering the Sugar Bowl and obviously the tragedy that happened on New Year's Eve. Matt, as we're reading here on the New York Times and all these websites, that it's still an active investigation. They're still determining whether or not this suspect, I guess, terrorist, whatever you want to call it, acted alone. Have you heard a lot of people question whether it's even appropriate to play the game at all today?
Yeah, and it's a fair question, right? I mean, again, I'll speak just personally, take the professional hat off for a second here. My wife and child are here.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out whether this was a safe place for us, knowing that, I was at the press conference at New Orleans police headquarters yesterday, and they're saying that they don't, the FBI saying that they don't think this guy acted alone. So what does that mean? I don't have any idea. Are there other bad guys out there? But some of the authorities at the press conference seem to think that there are. I don't know what that means in terms of, are they here? Are they somewhere else? I have absolutely no idea. But I do know that the police were sweeping the area. I think they kind of cleaned up things, sweeping the area with on foot, with bomb-sniffing dogs and all that stuff. So I do feel at least a little encouraged by that. And obviously, as it comes to the game, I wouldn't think a bad guy would want to attack it, knowing that all the security is going to be here. But I'm not a bad guy, so I don't have any idea. But yeah, it is a fair question on whether it should be played or whether it should have been moved or something like that. There's just not a lot of precedence for something like this and how to make it all work. Just, again, forget the security aspect, the actual football side. There's just a lot of moving parts here, and I think it's one of those where there's not a lot of good solutions.
Yeah, Matt, about the football side, how do you think this affects the players?
Well, it's going to affect them in some way, shape, or form, right? I don't know how many of the people are from Louisiana, how many of the players are from Louisiana or New Orleans, but I'm sure it's not zero. And then it's just, you go here thinking this is what the schedule is going to be. And football coaches and their staffs are so fine-tuned to the minute details. And now the whole thing is awry. So, like, what did you do yesterday, right? I'm sure the players and everybody was kind of camped out at their hotels. How are their bodies, right? I'm sure they were trying to get some work in, just move their legs or whatever, but does that affect them? Just as a physical aspect, in addition to the mental and all that other stuff too. So I don't know. This is the terrible radio answer, but I don't know how it's going to affect them. I'm sure it will. But obviously my hope as putting my sports hat on here as the professional, I hope that when the game kicks off, it feels like a normal football game, and we can kind of focus on that for a while.
Matt Baker joined us just for a couple more minutes. He's in New Orleans. He's there to cover the Sugar Bowl now, covering the game in a very, very different light because of the tragic events that happened on New Year's Eve with the terrorist attack. Final one, Matt, from me, which is just what is the schedule today in terms of this game? I know obviously kickoff's around 4 Eastern time, but what do you have any sense of, are the teams doing anything different this morning, or just sort of how's the day going to go?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer on how things are going to be different in terms of what the team preparation is. I know I'm expecting a lot of security at the stadium. I've covered games and events where presidents are there, and I don't know that it's going to have that level of security, but I'm certainly expecting a lot. If any fans are listening, I would probably encourage you to show up early and expect a lot of security from that aspect. And yeah, game's at 3 local time here, and I'm hoping it kicks off fine. And like I said, that it's an entertaining game, which we haven't had a ton of them in the playoffs so far. And, then we can just focus on ball.
Well, Matt, thank you for your reporting. You can read Matt in The Athletic. The Athletic, obviously, right now it's owned by the New York Times. So it's all the news is right there, constantly updating articles. And we appreciate you taking some time to talk with us. Again, we're relieved that you and your family are safe. And good luck today covering the game. We appreciate your perspective.
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. That's Matt Baker in New Orleans.
Wow.
It's surreal. I mean, you have to, Matt's saying that as a personal thing, he's there with his wife and kid. You got to be second guessing, do I even want to cover this game? I mean, everyone's got a job to do, but he's at a press conference yesterday with the police commissioner, and you have FBI who are saying they're not sure if this lunatic acted alone.
Yeah. It's definitely scary for everyone involved. I hope that, for the city of New Orleans, it's a big deal to have the Sugar Bowl. I hope the game goes off today without a hitch, and it's a great game. Again, I'm glad they didn't move the city because I'm telling you, I'll bet you if you did a vote in New Orleans, definitely keep the game here. This is what New Orleans does. So I hope there's a return to normalcy soon.
I had saw one article. I had seen in one article that 100,000 people in town just for the Sugar Bowl, they thought.
Yeah. And you could go on any night of the week, and there's a gigantic party in New Orleans. Hopefully that party keeps going because that's the best part of New Orleans, obviously. We were there for Final Four.
We were.
And you remember my story that I had to take the flight the next day. There was only one hotel room left, and it happened to be on Bourbon Street. And I was booking. I'm like, how loud can it be? It was like a airplane was taking off right outside my room for 7 hours. And this was just a random Tuesday night. Didn't sleep much that night.
We had such a good time in New Orleans, and we're really looking forward to going to the Super Bowl this year, too.
Absolutely.
All right, Andrew Bogusch is here. He's got headlines for us. Bogusch, thanks.
Guys, a lot happened on the Arizona State sideline yesterday in the Peach Bowl. Star running back Cam Skattebo was puking and at times yelling at his coaches about his frustrations with the offense's lack of production. Head coach Kenny Dillingham loved it.
If him being competitive and passionate on the sideline is a negative, then I'm in the wrong sport. The kid's competitive, the kid's passionate. And if that's a negative, then I don't know what a positive is.
On the field, Skattebo accounted for 3 late touchdowns, 1 passing, 2 running to force OT and then give Arizona State the lead on Texas. That's when Quinn Ewers took over with back-to-back TD throws. The first on 4th down to force double OT. He and Texas surviving 39-31 when Sam Levitt was picked off near the goal line. So that Peach Bowl had all the drama. The Rose Bowl was Ohio State 34, Oregon zilch in the second quarter. It ended 41-21 Buckeyes. There's a valid argument that the top-seeded Ducks should have had an easier opponent in this round, but head coach Dan Lanning, not part of that convo.
We had an opportunity. We didn't take advantage of our opportunity. I'm not going to make excuses for our opportunity, right? And ultimately, you got to be great teams to be in position at the end of the year, and we didn't do that. This is the road that we had to travel, and they did it better than us tonight.
Ohio State had 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals over its first 7 possessions. All 4 of those TDs came from 40-plus yards out. The Buckeyes and Longhorns now prep for their semifinal in Dallas next Friday night. As you guys were just discussing, Notre Dame, Georgia, 4 Eastern today in the Sugar Bowl. Holding that game overnight has also moved the Gator Bowl, Duke and Ole Miss, now kicking off at 8 Eastern tonight in Jacksonville. The NFL just unveiled Pro Bowl rosters. One mini bit of history, Zay Flowers is the first Ravens receiver to be picked for the game in the club's 29-year history. 8 teammates picked as well, including Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Those 9, that leads the way. The Lions' next most Pro Bowlers with 7.
I already have a Pro Bowl snub gripe I'm really mad about, and these just came out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't even seen the whole list yet.
So the entire Eagles offensive line made it, except for Jordan Mailata, who's the best left tackle in football by like a long stretch. He's number 1 grade in PFF all year long, and he's not on there. Their left tackle, and everybody else made it.
Did he play every game? I thought he was hurt for a little bit, wasn't he?
That I have to check.
And their reward is to play a dodgeball game.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
so
right.
I forgot about
dodgeball
that.
isn't a game anymore. It's
Are they doing? At least they're not doing 4
class.
teams like NBA.
Mailata's played 12 games this year.
Yeah,
That's probably why.
I don't know.
Valid or not, that's probably why.
Manny, what are the other events? You can look it up. Dodgeball, something, tag.
There's like a funky catch competition where they it's like they throw the ball up and you have to go do something crazy, or it's like maybe a variation of horse, but the wide receivers do it.
Can I just say the starting left tackle in the AFC is somebody very near and dear to the show.
Yeah.
Deion Dawkins.
Not the first time he's made the Pro Bowl.
EJ, your guy.
Love him.
So consoled EJ after he tore his patellar tendon.
And he really did console you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way,
didn't need my mom. I had Deion Dawkins.
I mean, did say he was going to get you out for a game.
I mean, said he'd take care of me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, well deserved. I mean, that guy in the last game, oh my God, like that guy's so good.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
watching him play.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Which is why he decided to play a practical joke on everybody before he signed his last contract extension. Said like, "Thanks for the wings, everyone. I'm out." I was like, "Wait, what?" In the middle on a random Tuesday, and it was just a joke. Guy's got an odd sense of humor, but I like him.
I'm sorry. One more question: did Sam Darnold get the nod?
Sam Darnold made it, but Jared Goff's the starter.
Okay,
yes.
That's exciting.
Patrick Mahomes not a Pro Bowler for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did he put up Pro Bowl numbers?
Absolutely not.
Let's get back now to judging quarterbacks by their looks. Jimmy Garoppolo will start for the Rams on Sunday against the Seahawks. LA choosing to protect Matthew Stafford, even though a win gets them the 3 seed in the NFC, which would keep them away from the Lions-Vikings loser in round 1. The Knicks didn't have Jalen Brunson last night because of a sore calf, but they remain majestic.
Towns drives and finishes with authority.
Mike Breen on MSG. Karl Anthony Towns, 31 points, 21 boards. And Josh Hart with 15 points, 14 rebounds, and 12 assists, becoming the first Knick since Michael Ray Richardson in 1981 BM. That's before Manny, with back-to-back triple-doubles, all in a 119-103 decision over the Jazz. The Knick win streak is now 9 games. Might they win out?
Yeah.
Some people are asking. Some people.
Longest winning streak since 2013.
Oof.
Well, we have to make room since the Carson Wentz poster is gone in the corner.
Yeah.
I have a new thing. My Mikal Bridges signed basketball will be arriving in the studio shortly.
And Mike Breen will be here to accept it.
For the ceremony.
Yeah.
Personal friend of Andrew Bogusch.
For the ceremony. You haven't been back in studio since the amazing night courtside at the Garden.
Yes, which the Knicks have obviously won. Yeah.
And now Perloff is weirdly this good luck charm, according to EJ.
Yeah, Knicks haven't lost a game since that happened.
Yeah, I don't. What do you mean? I'm not sure what to say about that.
But they were winning before
But I already told the story on air.
I know, but was there more to the story?
No. I remember I came on the next day on the phone.
Yeah.
That was the story. No, there really wasn't more to the story.
I mean, it was an amazing story. If you guys didn't hear it, Perloff got courtside seats because, thank you, Dr. Rock Positano, who's a friend of the show and season ticket holder. Someone was sitting in his seats.
Some jerk who, there was some confusion. I had to wait 2 minutes. So the guy comes up to me and says, "Who's your favorite Knick?" Bam! Ewing dunks in your face. I answered Mikal Bridges because he's from Philadelphia. So I was like, I'm a Sixers fan, but I can live with Mikal Bridges. So they delivered a Mikal Bridges signed basketball, which will be in the studio.
Now, I think Perloff made a grave mistake. However, it's in the moment, so I can forgive you for this, but you should have said current or all time.
No. Oh, that's great.
Because Walt Clyde Frazier could have signed your basketball, and that would be epically cool.
But which would be the most valuable? I think I should. I actually
should ask for Brunson.
I should ask for Brunson. Bridges is a good player too. I mean, there's that. But Brunson, I don't know. I feel like Brunson, now the cat's there, doesn't want to shoot a lot, and his scoring's going to go down. I don't know if that signature is going to be worth a lot.
Are you kidding me? Let's keep the vibes good, okay? You went to a game. The Knicks haven't lost since. They're the best team in the NBA in this stretch.
Honestly, I should ask for Cat.
Could ask for Towns.
The Brunson thing is crazy because you said, Villanova and Philly. Brunson is an Eagles fan and played at Villanova.
But Bridges is really Philly. And I would have done DiVincenzo if he was still there, too, because he's really Philly as well.
Michael Jordan
it's a tough choice. I panicked.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Delaware is annexed by Philadelphia. Delaware is a Philadelphia suburb.
The Michael Jordan of
Wait,
Delaware.
Michael Jordan.
I'm not lying. That's what they
I
called
know.
him.
You have a great point. I should ask for Patrick Ewing or somebody.
Well, I don't know if Ewing's in the building. Frazier's in the building because he does the color analyst.
Well, they didn't actually go to Mikal Bridges and say, sign a ball.
Oh, they just had it in the back?
Yeah.
They have
a stamp. I thought Mikal Bridges
No,
just
they have
a room of signed stuff already, I would think.
I know, but for authentication purposes, I would have thought you would have got to see him sign the ball.
Oh, God, no.
It's probably some staffer in the back who just spells it M-I-K-C-K.
Yeah. What are you talking about? I was lucky that they gave me I would have just taken a basketball.
You should
I would have
ask for
taken a
Chris
mini
Rock.
basketball and been thrilled.
Can you ask for a celebrity fan?
You check that signature. You're going to be like, is there an X in Bridges?
Yeah.
You should ask for Matthew Modine.
No. Actually, I think they probably kind of do this thing all the time. Matthew Modine. By the way, we're getting to the point where my daughter knew all the celebrities and I did not. That was like, oh, right. I am old and she's on TikTok. I do not know who these people are.
Bogusch, thank you. Got to take a quick break. Coming up, it's a controversy. It won't die. We're going to get to it next.
You're in a 5-minute break.
point. My name is Robert from San Francisco, not San Fran. I know you sports people do that.
Did I say San Fran?
4 minutes,
I think
30
I said
seconds.
San Fran.
No, you said San Fran. That's what set me off to call you. The name of our city is San Francisco. The second thing I'd like to say, okay, we hate that. We locals hate that. The name of our city is San Francisco. Unless you were watching a different game than what I was watching,
yeah,
I think that 2 runs that Brock Purdy had something to do with them advancing and winning this game.
Robin, I said he used his legs and his scrambling kept the comeback alive. I think you kind of have an axe to grind with me beyond the Brock Purdy.
I have an axe to grind to you. No, I don't have. Don't project onto me. I'm telling you what I heard and what I.
Okay, well, the first thing you said to me was, "Don't call our city San Fran," like you were wildly offended, which I don't even know if I said that.
I'm offended. I am offended by it because
that's insane to be offended by that.
You are such a smart aleck. Bye.
I'm not a smart aleck. I just don't want to get a. I think she kind of had it out for me a little bit before we even got started there. San Fran is offended. Did I even say San Fran?
I don't know if you said, but I'm with Robin.
Hey, Robin, how you doing?
Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Sorry, I got caught up looking at the Pro Bowl rosters that were just released. For quarterback in the AFC, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And in the NFC,
Goff, Daniels, and Darnold. Wow, Jaden Daniels. Look at that.
so we gotta. How about that? We've got to talk about what's going on with Saquon Barkley. We did this earlier, or I mentioned it earlier in our M&P 500 segment, Perloff, was whose stock is up and whose stock is down. I said stock down on rushing records getting broken because in college you had Ashton Jeanty from Boise State was only 27 yards away from breaking Barry Sanders' all-time record. And now for Saquon Barkley, 101 yards from breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time record. And I hate the fact that they're not playing him and keeping him from trying to get this individual achievement. It's so rare in football that you ever get anything individual. I know we're doing Pro Bowls right now, so I guess that. But it's so rare you get anything. And Saquon Barkley has been one of the most unselfish players in the NFL, period, full stop. I mean, he could have held out with the Giants, never did, reported to camp, never made it about him. He's never done anything to make it about him, ever. And the fact that he wanted to go for this for 100 yards, which he probably could get in the first half against the lowly New York Giants, let him do it.
I mean, you summed it up beautifully there. It's about the individual. And the great thing, I think the reason football is the number one sport in America is because it's the most team-focused sport. Like, everything you do is for the guys around you. And going for this individual record, which is totally meaningless, by the way, because he has an extra game. So let's be honest about what that is. And also, too, I understand what you're saying. I guess Eric Dickerson's making a big deal of this, but most single season NFL records just go by the wayside. Like, people don't even know what they are. It's not like baseball where records are sacred and numbers mean something. Like, I don't know who has the most like passing yards in a season. I assume it's Brady or Peyton. Like, those numbers are not sacred in the NFL. This one's a little bigger, but it's not that big. I mean, come on.
I think it is because I think we all knew that Eric Dickerson had it up until now. And be honest, if you're going to say, well, he had 17 games and Dickerson only had 16, well, O.J. Simpson had 14. And we still consider Eric Dickerson with more games to be the single season rushing record. If we really were holding true to games, it would still be, I know O.J. is distasteful to talk about for a lot of reasons, obviously. But if we're really talking about who should have the record, shouldn't it be OJ? Because he did it he had over 2,014 games.
Well, I think in NFL history, that is a more significant season than Eric Dickerson's 2105. Okay. I mean, everyone knows about that 2,000-yard season at the time. For a long time, that was one of the biggest deals. That was a little different because he was the first guy to he got the 2,000, right? 2003?
With the Bills,
Yeah, but again, I feel dumb. Like, what's this? There's a single season receiving record is Calvin Johnson or is it Jerry Rice? I don't even know.
I just think that it's about whether or not you want to let Saquon Barkley have this moment.
Right. Yeah, but it's not a let. It's about what's best for the team winning a Super Bowl because that is the only goal. There's no NBA in-season tournament. This is like the real deal.
Okay, but I just love how it's like everyone can tell the future. Like if he's going to play in this game and he's going to rush for 105 yards and break the record, it also means that he's going to shatter his femur. Like you don't know that. He could just have a regular, normal game like he's had and be completely fine.
I think they've been giving way too many touches. I think they should have started winding him down around week 12. I do not know what they're doing.
Okay, and if somehow the Eagles host the Green Bay Packers and you guys lose and Saquon has a bad game, you might say, well, he had too much rest. He was rusty. I mean...
No, that's a running back. There's no rest.
Cam Scatterbo yesterday, but you need to be saying that.
You need to be in a rhythm to have a passing game. Run, you just get the ball and go to the hole. Like there's no rustiness. He'd be fine. I think the wear and tear on a running back is a real deal. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Last year, the Niners started winding down McCaffrey at the end of the year, and he was really good in the playoffs. So I don't know. I really am worried about his touches. And also next year, he's going to be a puddle.
Well, I mean, 1 year at a time.
No, I mean it's running back. I don't look at it that way. I think you don't run your star running back into the ground because look what happened to McCaffrey. They ran him into the ground last year, and he's a total no-show this year.
855-212-4227. I just think it's, you have to take everything into context here. And I think who Saquon Barkley has been throughout his career, again, unselfish.
What does that have to do with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2024? That is such a non-factor. He was unselfish with the Giants? Who cares?
He's never, ever, ever made it about himself. And he's not doing that now, by the way, to his credit.
Yeah.
He's being totally cool about this, as of course he is, because he's Saquon. He's a classy guy. But for the team not to say, hey, we're going to be able to let you have this so that when your grandkids are or whatever, you can tell them you are the single-season rushing record. Because Eric Dickerson's has held since 1984 or whatever.
Yeah, the chance to win a Super Bowl is so much more important than any individual record ever could be. And unfortunately, if he did break this and they lost, people would be upset. People would hold it against him.
Thank you, DJ Stewart. Thank you to Manny Rodriguez, Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan, Weedo's Coffee Drinkers. It's 2025. We're better than ever. We'll see you tomorrow.
Wow, Jaden Daniels. Look at that.
You're in a 5-minute break.